Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
A very good evening, everybody. Nice to have your company wherever you're tuning in all around Australia or indeed the world on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Welcome to round two of the 2022 Season 1 version of the RSRA Super Series for Goodyear Autocare Warana. Tonight, on the back of an extraordinary opening round at Winter Motor Raceway in Benalla in northeastern Victoria, we move across to the United States of America. Part of the world we'll visit a few times throughout the course of this 12-week season for Barber Motorsport Park's outing of the series. This is, of course, Birmingham, Alabama we're visiting tonight. We'll get to all the track details and information for you in just a moment. One of the real favourites among the drivers, and a totally polar opposite circuit to Winter Motor Raceway, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Last week, a slow technical sort of lap at Winton with the exception of the back straight and the main straight. This week, fast, flowing, open right from the start, and that's reflected on the timesheets where there's very little between the time that we saw for pole at Winton and the time we'll see for pole here, only about 2.5, 3 seconds at most. And remembering full well that this circuit is nearly a kilometre longer than Winton's. So you're certainly going to get a lot of bang for your buck across the course the next 2 hours as we bring you Tuesday Night Motorsport for the second time this year. Now, bit of a change upstairs in the commentary box as well. We've had to draft in the super sub, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Leitz alongside me tonight because Matt Davis, as much as I applaud his commitment to his job and his love of the RSRA Super Series for Goodyear Autocare Warana, it's his mum's birthday. He was going to, beg off dinner with the family tonight, but his better half has brought him into the line and said, no, you will be going. You can give commentary a miss. He got hurled across the coals, and rightly so. So he will be back with us next week. As much as I applaud his dedication, I think he got caught up and brought into the line at just the right time. So on that note, we welcome in Daniel Leite for tonight. And it's a good opportunity to have you on board, mate, because you have got experience on this circuit from last night. We'll get to that in just a moment. But welcome to the big show, as they say.
Yeah, good evening, Zach. Good evening to all the viewers tuning in. Great to be back, or great to join you for the first time at Barber Motorsport Park. And you're right, it was a very interesting race last night in the Super 2 series. Fortunate enough to have a run there. Not the best result for myself there, but it's a very unique circuit, and from the times that we're seeing from the drivers out there so far, Blake Delaney setting the field alight, 122.19 at the moment, it's going to provide a very interesting race. Now, tonight is a little bit longer than what we saw last night for the Super 2 series, where we had the super sprint round. Tonight, 42 laps for these drivers, and the big ticket item that the guys really need to keep an eye on tonight is tyre life. I know last night it was very, very tricky out there, self included. The left front copped an absolute hiding around this circuit. So not only have you got to maintain the pace, which we're seeing from the guys in qualifying, you've got to do it for 42 laps. You've got to keep the tyre life underneath the car, and you've got to be in it right at the very end to get the most out of it.
Indeed. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with regards to strategy, mate. As you know, rules of the series that they've only got one fresh batch waiting for them in pit lane once the light goes green for the, 42 laps tonight. So it'll be a case of choosing wisely when to pit and when to take on that fresh set that's waiting for you in pit lane. You don't want to take it too early, but then conversely, you don't want to take it too late either. You need to find a happy medium, and you need to make it work with regards to your fuel strategy and your fuel numbers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fuel numbers are an interesting point tonight. We got an estimate of around 2.85 litres a lap around this circuit. Now, you get into the draft, you're going to see that fuel number drop well down. We saw guys last night getting as low as 2.4, 2.6 around there. So not only is it going to extend the window, it means you can save your tyre life a little bit as well later on. I think the big thing that we're going to see from a lot of these guys is try and extend the fuel range window as far as possible, throw the fresh set of boots on, and then bring it home from there. So it'll be interesting to see how all these drivers look to play out their own strategies.
Well, last week, of course, it was two of the new names in the series, some of the newbies on the block, absolutely tearing at the shreds at Winter Motor Raceway. Were you impressed with what you saw from Corey Shepard and Rick Kuznetsov?
Yeah, look, I've had the pleasure of seeing those guys race for quite a few seasons now in another league. Very, very competitive for Premier Racing, and I think it's a really good sign of things to come. Now, we know those guys for themselves, first time in the series this season. they started off with a fantastic win, so doing very, very well. And when we think about, they've got Nick Timors back in the Super 2 series race, doing a very good job. To have the likes of Corey Shepherd, Rick Kuznetsov, and the team leader Brian Borg in the main game is definitely going to help them with some strategy calls that they're going to need to use tonight.
100%. It was actually Brian Borg's participation in this series in the third and final championship of last year that prompted the interest of course, the likes of Shepherd and Kuznetsov to join the league in 2022. And what a message they've sent, what a statement they've made from the outset. This is the first of 5 consecutive weeks in North America, ladies and gentlemen. Next week we'll go to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, then on to Long Beach. Now, the variation in the calendar is where the race formats slot into the equation. We don't have our first sprint round until week 4. There it is there on your screen, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, in the week leading up to Easter from Long Beach, of all places. That will be a lot of fun from 8 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Then on to Lime Rock and Road Atlanta. Then we do a lot of continent hopping before the end of the season. We go to Europe, to Imola, then off to Oran Park, the famed former Oran Park Raceway in Narellan. Then continent hopping again over to Europe. Back to Donington Park we'll go. Then on to South America, North America, Mount Panorama, Bathurst to finish it off. So we're racking up a few frequent flyer miles this season in the RSRA Super Series. Now, programming note, and I'm not sure if the boys did this to death last night, but they should have. Programming note, next week, because the world moves with Sydney and Melbourne, and I don't mind making a point of that, we will be on air from the later time, for those of you tuning in Queensland, Western Australia and the Northern Territory at least, of 8:05 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Of course, the clocks wind back in the progressive and civilised parts of the country on Sunday morning, that being South Australia, Tasmania, Victoria, the ACT and New South Wales. So in line with that, the start time will be the same for those guys, but it'll be a little bit later for everybody else, particularly those of you over there in Western Australia. It'll be a more pleasant time of 6:05 that will be with you, not 5:05. So it'll actually give you a chance to get home from the office and settle in on the couch. So that's the programming notes straight up the top. I will make a few reminders of that for you throughout the course of the evening. Now, 1 round in the books, 11 to go. Let's have a look at the championship standings as they sit after round 1. Now, Corey Shepherd and Rick Kuznetsov, they both gained a bonus point last week. Rick for a clean race, Corey for pole position. So 151 plays 149. Dylan Rudd, third home, of course, a former champion in this league, of course. 146, 144 for Rehan Leonage, so close without any luck at the final hurdle last year. Sean McNamara, a former champion as well, 142. The defending champion in the RSRA Super Series, of course, and he put the icing on the cake with that victory in the Bathurst 1000 in December. Brian Borg, Dylan Pereira, Blake Delaney, Rainer Costello, and Cameron Jones make up the top 10. Heavyweights at the top end of town, most of those names familiar to long-time viewers of RSRA competition on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. We'll let the field scroll through there for you, and you can have a look at that. Big field lining up tonight. In fact, as it stands, we have 29 cars in the server. So even though it's not the 35, the 40 that we're probably used to in the early stages of the season, Dan, it's a case of the quality is there as opposed to the quantity. And on a circuit like Barber, 29, that's still going to make it fairly busy out there for these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 29 cars. It wouldn't matter at Barber whether you had 29 or 42 out there on track at the time. It's finding a bit of space in order to not only get your laps in, especially through qualifying, which is all important, but come race time, you need to know who you're up against. You've got to look for your opportunities to get those moves done. And this circuit is very tricky in the way you need to set the cars up. You've got very big braking zones. You've got a lot of undulation that you really need to contend with. So getting the stability in the car long term is absolutely key. And just as we see there, we saw a little bit of the old white smoke there. We're going to see a huge amount of that over the course of this race. The guys trying to get these cars settled. The big one will be almost through that little reverse corkscrew that we've got here on the back end of the circuit. So watching the guys get the cars working through that, get it balanced, and we're going to see a lot of in-car adjustments. Brake bias, anti-roll bars, all going to be a factor in trying to maximise the tyre life and strategies.
Indeed, they are. Looking forward to your comments right throughout the course of the evening. That is that sequence of corners there that you're talking about. Let's have a look at the track map and the race information for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll get stuck into qualifying properly here for you because the top 50% of the field are on circuit on their first flyer as we speak. This circuit, Barber Motorsport Park, Birmingham, Alabama, 3.83 kilometres, 16 turns, 72 kilometres an hour along pit lane is the speed limit down there. Of course, the race date, 29th of March 2022. I'll give you an updated server time a little bit later on here. We'll make sure we've got the mathematics in check. Race distance is 160.9 kilometres, 55 litre fuel restriction. So that's the that's essentially 50% of the tank. 110 litres is the maximum tank, but the fuel restriction is at 50% of that. 2.85 litres a lap is the fuel burn that Dan mentioned there a short while ago. That'll mean 2 pit stops and 2 sets of tyres available to these guys throughout the course of the evening. They'll start on one. They'll have to choose very wisely where they put the second fresh set on. The air temp set 25 degrees Celsius. The track temp 33, so that's nice and warm. The wind speed is 16 kilometres an hour in a southwesterly direction. The defending champion here and the lap record here belong with the guy who did a superb job, can I just say, in Tasmania over the weekend, winning yet another round in the Aussie Racing Car Super Series. His name is Tommy Heyman. So we want to say from everyone here at SimShed Broadcasting, me personally, Tommy, congratulations on the success you're enjoying so far in the Aussie Racing Car Super Series, of course. Throughout the month of March, they've been to Sydney Motorsport Park, they've been to Symmons Plains Raceway, and he has been at the top of his game. And his name will feature prominently throughout the course of our broadcast tonight because he is the lap record holder. He 1:23.247. Qualifying pace is significantly faster than that. It's going to be interesting to see what these guys bring to the table in the race when we get stuck into that in just a few moments' time. Now, my favourite part of the night here, Dan, is crunching the numbers and having a look because 2.85 is what we're dividing 55 by. So 55 litres is what they're starting with. 2.85 is the burn. So that's going to get us about 19.2. But that's actually really, really good because it means it's definitively 2 stops for one. And we saw at Winton last week the potential to stretch out what we thought was going to be 18, 19 laps to 21 or 22. So the potential is there if you can fuel save to stretch out those stints. However, based on those numbers, no need. 19, 38 and 57. Well, to be fair, when we're looking at a 42-lap race, that last sequence of pit stops is going to be essentially a splash and dash and nothing more. However, if we get a safety car, the potential might be there for these guys to really conserve their fuel from the outset and maybe turn it into a one-stopper. What are your thoughts?
Look, it's certainly possible to be able to do it. If we look at, and I'm going to refer back to last night, we went safety car free the whole way through it. We did have a couple of little incidents off the line, but no safety car out there, which really keeps you on your strategy mix. My bet, though, is I reckon we're going to get a few surprise ones out of this one tonight as well, with the guys looking maybe a little further down the field, come in early, back time the race, get that early stop done, and push through. It's a good opportunity, but as you say, the fuel usage and burn is also going to come down to track temperature. Qualifying at the moment, we're at 19 degrees out on circuit, which is perfect for these guys to be setting the kinds of laps they're doing. If that temperature starts to go up a bit more, we're going to see fuel consumption go down because the guys aren't going to be able to pedal these cars as hard because the track conditions aren't going to be there for them. So it's so interesting to see how they're going to do it. I can guarantee you all the spotters that are tuning in to keep an eye on their drivers and the teams and how they're doing it, they are going to have the calculators on fire by the end of this one, trying to get everything dialed in.
The problem that they face as well, and I'll say that we've got Sean McNamara off the road kicking up some kitty litter, but he's managed to get back on the racetrack. Corey Shepherd, provisional pole at this point in time, with 21.36. Dylan Rudd, 21.39. Sean McNamara, 21.52. Brian Borg, 21.57. Rehan Leonage, Hayden Sell, then Rick Kuznetsov. Kuznetsov needs to find some time if he's going to repeat the success of last week. Yeah, you're not wrong about the calculators burning, because as soon as I looked at that, I thought 19 laps, okay, that's no worries. 38, hang on, we've only got 4 in the third stint. But as you said there's also the potential for the reverse strategy. There's also the potential to fan it out over 3 even stints of maybe 14 laps, bearing in mind that if you go the fuel save option in the hope of doing it in 2 21-lap stints, you've also got to have enough fuel to get home on an oily road back to pit lane or otherwise cop a 3-spot penalty. So that one-stop strategy, unless you get a safety car, already fraught with danger as far as I'm concerned. Look for these guys to play a very interesting card with regards to how they operate with those 2 stops and where they opt to take them, because there's such great scope for flexibility tonight, given that the critical lap will be lap 23. You can get in on lap 23 and get home. So there's a tremendous scope for flexibility, versatility, and variety, and that's always the spice of life, apparently.
Well, that's what they reckon anyway. But yeah, the other thing we might see, and based on what we saw at round 1 at Winton with the Premier guys, they ran 1 and 2. Are we maybe going to see a bit of the cycling tactics come in, where the guys maybe split who's leading to try and maximise the fuel strategy as well? If they get themselves a bit of buffer, we might see and let's say argumentatively, we might see Shepherd and Kuznetsov back out in front. The Shepherd run three laps there, drop back in behind Kuznetsov, save a little bit of fuel for 3 laps. And with those two working together, they might be able to come up with that magic number they need to extend it. So, yeah, who knows? I'm really looking forward to seeing what they got to do. But I've got to say, we were just, when we were cutting back to watching a few guys before they jumped in the lane.
Yep.
Simon Chadwick had a massive slide through the back end of the circuit there, got it right out sideways, and he pulled it up just in time to hit the lane. So that's the really tricky spot of this circuit, I think, is trying to be able to maximise the speed over the crest, get the thing slowed down and turned in. The other thing we haven't talked about, though, entry is going to be diabolical for these guys. It is blindingly quick coming off the circuit. You've got to get it slowed down super hard there, as we see Brian Leonard's coming in there. You've got to back it down, get it turned, shoot down the little short chute, pull it up again, another 90-degree corner, then get the brakes on, and your limiter lined up in time. Now, we saw last night plenty of guys get pinged for overusing the run-in to get into their pit boxes. So it's another thing for the guys here tonight to keep in mind. We know you can only come into your bay 1 box before your allocated pit box. So you might see a couple of drive-throughs as a result of that if they don't time it right.
Well, we certainly did see that last week. It was one of those little things that race control cracks down on, that a couple of drivers had let slip their mind, and they were soon reminded that yes, that rule hasn't changed season in, season out. So I'm sure they'll have got on top of that, and it'll be at the back of their mind going into tonight's race that we don't want to muck that up again, because it certainly is a costly exercise when you do. Now, the cars are out on the circuit with 4.5 minutes left on the clock in this qualifying session. Let's focus on this, because a lot of them have just cycled through pit lane again to make their way out on the track for one red-hot final go of it in this qualifying session. So the top 15 minutes was for the bottom 50 of the field. There was a 5-minute changeover for them to come back to pit lane, park it, and send these guys out. And so far, so good for Dylan Rudd. Dylan Rudd has displaced Corey Shepherd, 121.33 plays, 121.36, and then Sean McNamara is in pit lane at the moment, 121.52, a 21.57 for Brian Borg. Rehan Leonage, Rainer Costello, 121.68 and 121.72. Ridiculously tight margins between each member of each row at the moment, Daniel, and that's not surprising given the competitiveness of this field and given the track that Barber is. One thing that is going to be extremely difficult tonight, mate, is consolidating your overtaking manoeuvres. There's no problem executing them around here, but because of the sequence of corners in which a lot of them, once you get the overtaking job done, particularly running out of turn 5, if you get the job done in turn 5, you've put yourself on the inside for 5, but you're on the outside for turn 6. So there are a lot of opportunities like that tonight where we're going to have to keep an eye on those overtaking battles, because they might take 15, 20 seconds to be determined.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing is, though, you can defend rather well around this circuit, much like Winton last week. If you run the race line and you can just keep the forward momentum in the car, you can hold on to that position relatively well. The big thing, as you're saying, is getting the drive down out of the corner. it's make or break in that portion of the lap. If you can't get the power down efficiently, you'll kiss goodbye to that position you've just picked up under the brakes there. So a lot of the guys we might see later on, especially as the fuel load comes down, the tyre life falls away, getting those rear bars just adjusted on point is going to be what they're going to need to help maximize that flow out of those corners. So yeah, we'll see a few things. We did see a few interesting moves last night. The guys parking it down on the race line does make it very hard, but there's a lot of corners around this circuit where you can go too wide as well if you've got the respect between both drivers to pull it off. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Much like Winton last week, you've really got to fire it down into a few specific corners. You can make a move here in many locations, but you need to put faith in the guy on the outside or the guy you're overtaking that he's not just going to turn down on you.
Now, I just had an interesting thought there whilst you were talking about running to side by side, running 2x2. Turn one's going to be one of those points on lap one, and then on subsequent laps throughout the course of the race, turn one, turn two. But did you notice last week as well when we were at Winton, gone was the staggered F1 style grid start. They were back side by side as they traditionally would be for a supercar race or for a rolling start race. So if iRacing can do that for Winton, I want to know if they're actually going to start implementing that grid structure on every other circuit on the iRacing server, because I'm sure a lot of people would like to see that, another step in the right direction of realism, because I know they they kind of feed off that realism tag. And I know our executive producer will no doubt include that on his next email to iRacing, because he's regularly in contact with those people. They've got a very good relationship, I think. Now, qualifying is almost in the can here at Barber Motorsport Park in Birmingham, Alabama. And we're waiting to see if anyone can displace Dylan Rudd from scoring his first pole position of the season. Corey Shepherd, it's not going to be him. He's already parked it in pit lane. Sean McNamara is out on a hot lap at the moment. He won't get another one in, I wouldn't think. 35 seconds to go here. Rainer Costello's just started another lap. He's boxed down in 7th at the moment. Rick Kuznetsov has finally pulled one out of the hat and got himself up into 5th place. He was down behind Leonage and Costello for a long time there, but now he's displaced them. So Leonage back to 6th place. He's still in pit lane, so it's probably not going to be him either. Corey Shepherd out of this session as well. McNamara's got back out there, but it's not going to be for another lap, because by the time he comes back around, the checkered flag will be flying for him. Interesting time ahead here in the next few seconds as the checkered flag gets set to wave now. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, frog in the throat, not COVID, just a worn-out voice box after a big weekend of XL racing out at Morgan Park that hasn't bounced back as well as it used to. Rudd, Shepherd, McNamara, Borg and Kuznetsov all on flyers at the moment, with the exception of McNamara. Kuznetsov's now bailed out of it. He's parked in pit lane as well. Costello's on his final lap of the session. We're watching him now. Sporting the new number, of course. We're still getting used to that, number 56. And where he is, position number 7, 7-8 make 56. So he's actually lined that up very nicely from a numerical standpoint. Across the line he goes. There were no green boxes in any of that. And it was reflected on the timesheet at 121.74. His best was a 121.72. Dylan Rudd has pole position for round 2 of the RSRA Super Series, the Goodyear Autocare Warana. And Dan, that's a great result for Dylan. No one outside of the Premier squad would have been very, very happy with the last week, particularly the 9-5 boys. They were outsmarted, they were outplayed by Premier. They want to come back and ensure that Premier are aware that they're here to fight and they mean business, and they're not going to give up the number 1 too easily. And that's the way to do it with pole for Dylan Rudd.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that last tour that he managed to take around the circuit, he actually improved the lap time. So he got it down to a 121.28. It was a 121.33 the lap prior. So good little bit of improvement there. But you're right, 9.5 have definitely come on strong. They've been very, very quick. We know how good Dylan Rudd is in this car. We've seen it over the last few seasons as well. He's very seasoned competitive, very capable in the supercar as well. So it'll be interesting to watch what he's able to do. But getting the cars off the line is now the next big challenge where these drivers have got to shift their focus to. And Corey Shepherd is very good at getting these cars off the line. And if he does make a little bit of a mozza, he's good at getting it in there into turn 1. So keep an eye on that. But we've got Brian Borg not that far behind. Rick Kuznetsov again in there. Rehan Leonard's probably back a little bit further than where he wants to be ultimately.
100%. So the qualifying session is done. The warm-up session now underway, which is essentially the driver's briefing for our field here, as Daniel Stevens will take the Porsche out onto the circuit and do some laps of Barber Motorsport Park while the drivers are read the right act, as we like to call it. So let's, at that point in time, have a look at the results from that qualifying session to remind everybody of who's done what. And Dylan and Daniel's point about getting these cars off the line is well valid, because we'll get back to that in just a moment. But right now, I just want to focus on the fact that Dylan Rudd and Corey Shepherd have gone 1 and 2 here. Sean McNamara and Brian Borg are 3rd and 4th. Rick Kuznetsov and Rehan Leonard will share the 3rd row. Rainer Costello and Hayden Sell the 4th. And Dylan Pereira and Blake Delaney the 5th. 0.9 separates 1st and 10th. That's not a bad effort. 121 to the benchmark from Dylan Rudd. That's going to be hard to topple. What will be very interesting here is who can set the fastest start of the race, and whether they can top off that time or topple that time that Tommy Heyman laid down this time last year. Over the page we go. 7 Holdens and 3 Fords in the top 10. Outside of that, again, Holdens dominate this field, 7 and 3 between 11 and 20 as well. Wade Sheedy, a new name, Simon Vella, Matthew Scholes, David Kirby, Aaron Dodd, Mark Newton, and then Brenton Nitschke, Kai Turner, Thomas Freeman, and Craig Schultz made up the top 20. We keep going. Stephen Banks, Chris Tunnock, Dean Alessi, Simon Chadwick, Jamie Dyke, Brian Good, Robert Crisdale, and John Gillies made up the field. 1.6 separated 1st and 27th. John Gillies unable to lay a real competitive time down there, 0.8 behind the 27th place driver. So that's a little bit disappointing for him. 27 will start. Interesting to note, Cameron Jones put down a practice time, 122.164, but did not manage to put down a qualifying number. I'm just having a look through here to see if there's been any issues with Jones. It would appear not. I can't tell whether I don't think he's connected or manually disconnected, but it's going to be a pit lane start for him, and also Kai Turner as well. Now, I'm not too sure what the the infringement there is for Kai Turner, but for Cameron Jones, it'll be the fact that he hasn't laid down a number in qualifying. And I guess maybe there's a degree of strategic thinking about that from Cameron Jones. Daniel, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. I've got a feeling that Cameron might be of the belief that there might be a little bit of carnage in turn one, and the best way to avoid it is start behind it.
Look, it's not a bad idea. Personally, I'd rather be on the grid. As nice as it is to start from the lane, you do put yourself at a fair disadvantage because you've got to wait for the field to clear through before you're even allowed to get down and away. So, yeah, I can see some merit to it, especially if the guys maybe tuned in and had a watch of the race last night. Not necessarily the place I'd be starting from.
So the pit lane for Kai Turner was for the tow during qualifying. We know that now. He had to get a tow during qualifying, which takes him out of position number 18, puts him down in 28th position, and Cameron Jones didn't even set a time. So just reminding everybody that the tow rule, so obviously, well, there's a couple of different ways we can approach this explanation. I've got 1.25 minutes, so I'll make it as quick as I can. The tow rule is if you can't get back to the pit lane under your own steam during a qualifying session, you request a tow. And that, therefore, means that you subject yourself to a pit lane start, because that's the punishment befitting the crime. In the race, if you request a tow, 9 times out of 10, it results in causing a safety car. Of course, iRacing don't control the safety cars in this series. We do, hence why you can see that beautiful Porsche 992 on screen there. Daniel, your point very quickly before we run through the grid. The guys will be lining up in just a moment. The point was very valid about getting these cars off the line, because they would have been running low fuel during that qualifying session. All of a sudden, they're going to have 55 litres on board.
Yeah, and for everyone who knows the supercar, it's not an easy thing to get off the line, especially if you try to do it correctly and use the clutch. That being said, you can preload these cars a fair bit with the brake and the gas to get them away. So it's not too bad in that standpoint. That being said, though, we saw last night, and unfortunately, one of my teammates, Tony Gaffer, made a bit of a mozza on the feature race. He didn't get the car away quite right, dropped him right to the back of the field. So, if you're starting out of a good position, the last thing you want to do is make a meal of that, because it's just going to make your night even harder than it already is.
Looking forward to this one, mate. Have you got a tip for me?
Oh, look, I've got a few, but we'll keep it under wraps. Look, I'm very interested to see how the guys at Premier continue on. I mean, they've been very, very quick since the start of this one. I'd love to see Rehan get back up there. We know Reina Costello, again, going to be very quick. I wouldn't mind betting, though, Dylan Pereira going to be able to come back up through the field. Seeing what he can do in these cars also.
Absolutely. Dylan Rod and Corey Shepard share the front row. Sean McNamara, Brian Borg the second, Rick Kuznetsov, Rehan Leonage the third, Reina Costello, Hayden Sell the fourth, Dylan Pereira and Blake Delaney the fifth, Wade Sheedy and Simon Vella from row six. So all the big heavyweight names where you expect them to be right inside the top 10. The only exception, I guess, being Cameron Jones. We know that he's starting from pit lane. Matty Scholes, David Kirby, Aaron Dodd, Mark Newton, Brenton Nitschke, Kai Turner, Thomas Freeman, Craig Schultz take you back to position number 20. Behind them, Stephen Banks and Bruce Tunnock. And, of course, also Dean Alessi and Simon Chadwick. Very disappointing qualifying performance from Jamie Dyke. He's 25th. Brian Good, Robert Crisdale, John Gillies and Cameron Jones make up. Set for start. Round 2 of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries, the Barber 160 on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Tuesday night motorsport is go! Great start as the field spreads out on the run to turn 1. Brilliant jump, brilliant getaway from the pole sitter. Not really a surprise there. Dylan Rudd leads them through, but close. Hot on his heels is Corey Shepard. Good start from Sean McNamara as well to move up into third. And Reina Costello, the man on a charge in the early stages here, he's vaulted up from 7th to run 5th as they hit turn 5 for the first time.
Yeah, got to keep an eye on Rick Kuznetsov as well. He didn't get that car away very smartly either. He's fallen well down the order, now back in 6th position, so a little bit of work for him to do. But already some big guys moving up the field. Jamie Dyke, 6 spots. Bruce Tannock, 4 spots gained off the line, so it's looking pretty good. Everyone's now settled down into single file. You see Brian Borg there just coming under a little bit of pressure early on. Reina Costello right in behind.
Reina Costello already applying the pressure here to Brian Borg. We know this guy races well. Borg in the grass on the opening lap. And that's a lucky escape for him, because so often we can see when these guys hit the grass, the grass takes control of the car and you lose all capability of keeping it on the black stuff. But Borg gathered it up and did so beautifully right there. He's under pressure from Reina Costello, the 2020 Goodyear Autocare Warana 1000 winner, of course, at Mount Panorama, and so unlucky in his own rights in the championships last year. Second by a point in season 1 and less than about seasons 2 and 3. They better Borg wide at 1 in the grass and gone, locks it up out wide and hits the grass.
Yeah, unfortunate there. He's gone back another spot. Just had a look too. Hayden Sells had a big moment as well. He's now fallen right to the back of the field there, down 21 spots. He had a moment just coming across the line as well. So plenty of work for him left to do. But that was a great move from Costello. Just keep the nose in there, press it through and apply the pressure as he did. But for Borg now, back in 8th position. Not what he's looking for.
No, not at all. That was unlucky from him. Carried a lot of momentum into turn 1. Couldn't get it pulled up. It kind of just got pushed out onto that grass there. And there, from that point, as soon as he got on the black stuff, he was immediately compromised, because the car doesn't pull up when it's on the green stuff. And he headed across to the other side of the circuit, found the other grass patch on the left-hand side. And that allowed Rick Kuznetsov, Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira the opportunity to displace Borg, and he's got a lot of work to do from 8th now. We know that overtaking around here is easy, but at the same time, you do not want to give any of these guys around you a head start or give them any sort of an advantage if you can help it. And that's, unfortunately for Borg, exactly what he's done, and he's on the back foot for the next short while. End of lap 2, main straight again. This will be a very quick race tonight, ladies and gentlemen. 54 laps around Winton last week. We went racing for just a little over 70 minutes. This week, it'll be over and done in well short of that if this speed is maintained all the way through. So we're looking at lap 19 as the first critical number with regards to pit stops. We're watching Dylan Rudd and Corey Shepard lead the field through as we take some scenic shots of Barber. And of course, have a look at that. If you were afraid of spiders and insects, you wouldn't like that shot, would you? Fair dinkum. Gotta love it. It's one of the scenic attractions of Alabama. Oh, we've got one car off the circuit further back in the pack. I think that was Mark Watson. Or Newton, I should say. My apologies. Newton off the circuit, just losing a chunk of time there over at turn 5. And it's so easy to come unstuck at the hairpins and also at the chicanes. So you got the hairpin at 5 and then the chicane at 6. Very easy to come unstuck on both sections of circuit. But thankfully we stay green. We ride on board with Dylan Rudd. Rudd, Shepherd, McNamara, Costello, Kuznetsov, the top 5 at the moment. Rehan Leonage sits 6th. And the field pretty well bunched up here. Only half a second first to second. But McNamara and Costello, importantly, Daniel, haven't lost a great degree of ground to the top 2 here. They've stayed within striking distance. Anything more than a second, you'd favour Dylan Rudd, you'd favour Corey Shepherd to start accelerating away. But if they can keep that buffer to less than a second, McNamara and Costello have still a chance to latch on at some point down the track.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with the pace that we've already gone. First flying lap, we were already back into the 122s. Interestingly, though, having a look back from Dylan Rudd's car, keeping an eye on Corey Shepherd there, you can already start to spot some differences in how these guys have got the car set up. Shepherd, very good under brakes, being able to close the gap, get it turned in. But for Rudd there, he's got the drive out, which is what you want around this corner, especially if you're going to maintain that positional advantage. Last time out through, 122.57, quickest lap of the race so far, Dylan Rudd.
Copy that. So Dylan Rudd 122.57. I'm just actually comparing that with last year from Tom Heyman 123.24. So we've already absolutely obliterated the times set in last year's race here at Barber Motorsport Park. Sorry to disappoint you, Tommy Heyman, as they make their way around for the second time. Now, there's a key ingredient, a key bit of detail that we haven't mentioned already tonight. That is that Corey's running the red colour number on screen here. He's running 718, and that is because, for the benefit of those of you at home that are regular viewers of Supercars on the telly, you will notice this and you'll immediately pick up on what I'm about to say here. All the other numbers are yellow, but car number 718 being the championship leader, his number is red, as a way of highlighting who the leader of the pack is. Jamie Dyke off the circuit coming onto the main straight as well. That's not ideal for him, and we've got a drive-through penalty being issued there as well for car number 123 for contact on car 099. So Bruce Tannock will be making an unscheduled visit to pit lane.
Yeah, that's look, there's potential for him to be able to pull that back, especially if we do get the safety car as the race goes on. But that was the 099. That was Mark Newton that we saw go off earlier in the race there. And just keeping an eye too on the numbers going up and down throughout the field. Currently, Bruce Tannock is 8 spots up, but we know he's got this drive-through penalty to serve. Simon Chadwick, 8 spots gained so far. Dina Leslie, 6 as well. Brian Goodall and Robert Christel both with 6 on board. So the guys are starting to move their way up through the field nicely. We're going to have a look back here at this bit of contact just to see how it unfolded. So it's down into 5. Big break. You see a little bit of a wiggle on there from Mark. And he just that bit of a wiggle was all it took to unsettle the back of that. He closed the door probably a little more than he needed to. And unfortunately there for Bruce Tannock, he's now got that drive through as a result.
Indeed he does. We've got Tannock serving that as we speak. We move on to lap 6 of 42. Not much in this at the front. Important to note that Shepherd has managed to put more than a second between himself and Sean McNamara now, who's under pressure from Rainer Costello. And then a log jam of traffic because Kuznetsov, Leonage, Pereira and Borg all within tow of one another. Same can be said for Wade Sheedy, Aaron Dodd, and same can be said for Blake Delaney and Brenton Nitschke. All those guys in pretty close tow at this point in time. Kai Turner had an off-track moment through turn 5 a short while ago and has ended up down or back down in 26th position as a result of that. Simon Vella off the circuit at this point in time. And car 015 for contact on car 080. 080 being, of course, Jamie Dyke, is going to cop itself a drive-through. So that's Thomas Freeman, of course. Let's take this opportunity to show you one of our new cool features for 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go helmet cam. Let's go on board with Dylan Rudd here, the race leader, doing a beautiful job out in front of the early stages. So across the start-finish line we go. Let's head for a lap above Motorsport Park. We're on lap 7 of 42. Big news out of pit lane here, ladies and gentlemen. It's chock-a-block of race cars because the safety car has been deployed for the first time this season, the first time tonight. The safety car is out at Barber Motorsport Park. Bruce Tunnock off the circuit. That's the reason for it. We'll find out more on that in just a moment. We know about Jamie Dyke's off-track excursion. This has been a big helper for him because he'll be able to latch back onto the pack. But now, Daniel, we start to ask the questions. We start to ask whether the guys that are coming into pit lane on what will now almost certainly turn out to be the alternate strategy, whether they're onto something or whether the guys that are going to stay out under the safety car and potentially try and stretch this and make it a one-stop race. I don't know how this is going to play out from here, but let's have a look at the replay as to why we're under safety car first up.
Yeah, we'll just check that out. We just saw plenty of our lead guys come down the lane. So here's a look at the replay. Down into 5 there. Again, locking up the rear brakes. Nowhere to go, and then just drives it around into the wall.
So
He was able to get this out. That's Kai Turner.
That was Turner about a lap and a half ago. That was an incident that I did see on my other monitor here. Bruce Tunnock is off the circuit, and I'm not exactly sure where he is. But no, it looks like all the conversation, Daniel, about one-stoppers, looks like all of that's out the window now because all the hot shots, all the heavyweights have come into pit lane.
Well, they have, but let's keep an eye on a few of the guys that haven't. We've got Leonard, Pereira, and Delaney all staying out there, so they're going to play the long game at this point.
Rick Kuznetsov missed his pit bay by the look of that, and that will not serve him well in the greater scheme of things. When the field's this bunched up, that could end up being costly. He could lose a few positions out of all of that. Robert Christdale, as you said, has stayed out. Leonard, Pereira, and Delaney as well. So Dylan Rudd, the first of those that have stopped, along with Corey Shepard, Sean McNamara. Of course, Christdale hasn't stopped, but he's 7th. Rainer Costello, Rick Kuznetsov, Brian Borg, Wade Sheedy, and Aaron Dodd take us back to 12th. Jamie Dyke has come in to stop in all of that. He's going to slip right back down to 28th position. This is somewhat disappointing for him. He's a guy with a lot of pace, but not a lot of luck, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing there, but yeah, still plenty of time to be able to work their way through. I got to say, I made the similar mistake at Whitten last week out, so I can definitely appreciate the pain that he's got there. But I'm very interested to look at the strategy that the two Phoenix Racing drivers, Leonard and Pereira, are starting to play now. They've got a little bit of insight knowledge from last night's race with the likes of Tim Mulford and Simon Fella out there as well, being able to provide them, or Steve Fella, sorry, being able to provide a little bit of insight into how this track's going to run. So have these guys taken that on board? They're using it now in this because they will be very hard to pass around here. We saw it before with Corey Shepard not being able to get the move done on Rudd. But those guys now, full fuel, maybe a little bit slower on similar age tyres. Could be interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Now, safety car's going around at least one more time. This is interesting because I'm still none the wiser as to what happened to Bruce Tunnock, but obviously having to get the tow. He's come unstuck somewhere, had to get the tow, and that's triggered race control to deploy the safety car. So Tunnock out of business tonight. Leonard, Pereira, Delaney, 1, 2, 3. Robert Christdale in 7th, the 4 that haven't stopped yet. Here's a replay. This might shed some light as to what happened to Bruce Tunnock as they come out of turn 5 and on the run up towards 6. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Wow. That'll be it, all right. When you're on the wrong side of the Armco, end upside down, I can't see you getting back on the racetrack without some sort of outside assistance. Spectacular escape from Bruce Tunnock. Spectacular exit from this race. And that one will hurt somewhat significantly. And he was in that position, Dan, as we know, because he'd only just come into pit lane to serve a drive-through penalty a lap earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So not what you want to be doing. And it's all those things. If you make those little mistakes, it compromises your overall race. And unfortunately, you do find yourself in those things. But still plenty more rounds in the championship. He will live to fight another day and be able to hold the points. He'll just be kicking himself for the rest of tonight, however.
Live being the key word there. I don't know if he would have been so lucky if that was a real-world incident. My goodness gracious me. He'd be very bruised and battered, to say the least. 9 of 42, so 33 to go next time by the line. Now, what we're going to see here too Dan, obviously with the Spanish run in the works here, and we're not going to see a long opening stint. We're now looking at a different critical number. We're now looking at, well, obviously 23 is the critical number where you can fuel up and get home. But if these guys want to run it dry, we're looking at probably lap 28 because even though we're saying we can get 19 to the tank comfortably, the fact that they've saved a significant amount of fuel on laps 7, 8, and 9 means they might be able to stretch this out to about lap 28, 29. But one thing's for sure, if the tyres start to give them grief before that point, they'll have no hesitation in coming into pit as long as they're beyond lap 23.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you can hit that number and get it out there, you'll be fine. You might even want to stretch it maybe 1 or 2 laps further if possible, because the other thing we haven't really mentioned tonight is at the conclusion of the race, you've still got to get back around after your cool-down lap. So if you run it out of fuel on the cool-down lap, you definitely got a points penalty. You're going to pull yourself further down the field. So there's a couple of different things they've got to look at here. So for the safety car, while they're trundling around, the guys will have put it up in 6th gear. There'll be definitely plenty of lift and coast to try and save every last little bit of fuel here. Because I can guarantee you right now, the guys have got the clutch in and they're just rolling around turn 1, trying to save that fuel. So if they're able to do that, we might see that little bit of time just stretch out. But it's going to play nicely for the guys in behind.
An extended, very long safety car period is about to come to an end, ladies and gentlemen. Race control have advised that the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. You might notice a little bit of a difference week on week here, ladies and gentlemen. Your race control messages can now be seen in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Of course, Tuesday Night Motorsport, much the same with regards to Monday Night Motorsport. We can't do it without the people that I'm about to pay the bills for and make mention of and say thank you to here. Of course, they include Goodyear Autocare Warana, Real Sim Racing Australia, SimShed Broadcasting, and our good friends at FU Suicide. I don't need to explain or elaborate on what the FU is, ladies and gentlemen. It's too early in the evening for our viewers in Western Australia. Shout outs also for our good friends at Trackcams for Gourmet, SDK Gaming, Overpass Visuals, and Sim Inc. Of course, we couldn't do any of what we do Mondays, Tuesdays, or Saturdays even on our coverage of the Australian Stock Car Championship, the Weekend Warriors, without those guys. So props to them, and props to you for coming along for the ride to tune in on Tuesday Night Motorsport and stay with us here on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting as we take you up to 10:30 Eastern Daylight Time. I'll have an update from the Australia-Pakistan cricket series for you a little bit later on as well, ladies and gentlemen, because that the test matches are done. Australia won that, but obviously the one-day international is getting underway tonight. COVID, unfortunately, still strangling the camp there. And impacting selection changes and a few other things. But the safety car's in here at Barber Motorsport Park, and we're ready to resume round 2 of the Goodyear Autocare Warana Super Series. Zach Caban, Daniel Leet with you in commentary tonight. JP punching the buttons as he usually does for us, and we're set to go again. It'll be Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira leading the field to the green flag. Let's see how long they can keep the chasing pack at bay for. Back to green in Birmingham, Alabama. Rehan Leonage leads the field to turn 1. And a pretty calm, processional sort of start there with the exception of Rainer Costello. Rainer Costello missed the jump. He missed the jump. No, trouble for Corey Shepard. Corey Shepard out of turn 2. Trouble for the championship leader. Rainer Costello kicks up a bit of grass there as well. Cars going everywhere. Oh, no, trouble. 3 wide. Going into turn 5. Oh, the cat's been let out of the bag. Oh, wow. The intensity's just gone up to a whole new level here, boys. So let's have a look at a replay and try and analyse exactly what's happened here for Corey Shepard firstly. Then all hell's broken loose from there. So he's just come through the corner.
Oh, he's nudged him.
He's nudged the car in front, which of course was either Dylan Rudd or Sean McNamara at the time. It was Dylan Rudd, the effective race leader. Wow, that's extraordinary. So that set off a chain reaction because everyone got balked up and boxed in. And all of a sudden, all hell broke loose, as I said there. And in all of that, Rehan Leonage, Dylan Pereira, and Blake Delaney have clean, smooth sailing at the front of the field. That part hasn't changed. I called it wrong because we picked it up a little bit late. My apologies. Rainer Costello didn't get balked in there. He actually didn't miss the jump. He just got balked, unfortunately, by Robert Crisdale, who has now been shuffled out of that completely and back to ninth place. So Crisdale's one of the big losers off the restart. Costello finally moves his way over to sixth position. Dylan Rudd, the next target. But Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira, you'd have to say, Daniel, would be loving every single piece of this because they've been able to break clear and give themselves a little bit of a buffer.
Yeah, exactly. They've got a little bit of breathing room here just to play on and get their eyes back in and press on. The interesting one, when we watched that replay all unfold, we saw Corey Shepherd going on the outside 3 wide. Rick Kuznetsov with the cheeky move down the inside. He picked up a couple of spots out of that. So we've now got the 3 Premier cars running nose to tail, 7th, 8th and 9th position there. Fortunately, Dylan Rudd didn't get rotated in that affair as well. So he's been able to hold on. Will take potentially a little bit of life out of the tyres there. So wait to see how that goes. Just having a look back through the field here. We're looking at Corey Shepherd now. This is the onboard just to see how he's picked him up there and just got into that rear corner, got out of it early enough to be able just to get himself back underway there. So good luck for him. He'll have to keep an eye on, as you see there. That was Rainer Costello just going around the outside as well.
Yeah, just casually. If there's an ambitious move to be made, 9 times out of 10, it'll come from the youthful exuberance of the likes of Rainer Costello. Now, move here on the inside. So this is Blake Delaney getting gobbled up by Sean McNamara. Got him. McNamara on the number 1 into 3rd. But Delaney looks to fight back on the inside, going down the hill out of 5 to 6. Have a look at this as they get to the end of the back straight. The chicane here. McNamara covers it off. Then gets the grass on the run through. Then runs it too deep and wide. Here comes Dylan Rudd up the inside of the pair of them. Delaney's not going to give up without a fight here, and Rudd's going to get by his teammate. Oh boy! It's like the can of worms has been opened. All hell's broken loose. The fireworks are being let off, and you don't know where to look at the moment.
Well, that's it. I was going to say it's real Dukes of Hazzard stuff. The guy's just launching the cars over the curbs there, trying to get them settled down. And fortunately for Blake Delaney, he's been able to hold on to that 3rd position now. So he's withstood the first bout of attack. We'll see what he's able to do here. Dylan Rudd got plenty to do. McNamara just in behind there. That is going to bring Costello, Kuznetsov, and Shepherd and Borg all back into contention as well. Now that top battle for 4th position back into a 6-car train.
Always good with the safety car. You can always rely on it to burst and breathe new life into these races. And yeah, it's just lifted in all sorts of ways. Intensity being one of them, intrigue and excitement another as they come up to turn 5 once more. So the running order: Leonage, Pereira, Delaney. Delaney, the longer he can keep the 9-5 boys at bay, the better the boys ahead of Delaney, Pereira, and Leonage are going to be, because again, Leonage and Pereira are running the alternate strategy, as is Delaney. Delaney, unfortunately, he's the sitting duck. It's the boys ahead, the 2 teammates, Leonage and Pereira, that are set to are set to be the beneficiaries. They are set to gain. Corey Shepherd off the track again, but gets back on. Must have just scraped the grass on the way through there. But yeah, they stand to gain, Pereira and Leonage, more than anybody else. The longer Delaney holds this train up, and look at it, it is getting long. It's a 6-car train at the moment coming through back onto the main straight, encompassing Delaney, Rudd, McNamara, Costello, Kuznetsov, and Shepherd. Shepherd, a man on a mission, so too Kuznetsov. What a race we've got here at Barber Motorsport Park. Shepherd having a nosedive down the inside and then tucks back in on Rick Kuznetsov. The 2 teammates need to work together here. Up on the outside now, Rudd and McNamara working together, trying to find a way by Delaney, and all the meanwhile, the smiles on the faces of Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira are getting slightly more visible. Down the inside, McNamara and Rudd. Rudd with the big send on Delaney. Delaney again hanging tough on the outside, knowing full well that he'll be on the inside of the next corner, but he bogged it down. He slid. He lost a lot of speed. He washed off a bit of momentum there. Tights back on the inside as they get down to the end of the back straight, but has to yield. Oh, no, Rudd's wide this time. Rudd's out of control. Exactly the same as what McNamara did before him. And now, order restored. McNamara and Rudd are back there in behind Delaney. Delaney lives to fight another day. By gee, he's punching well at the moment, is Blake Delaney. Now he's trying to fend off Rudd. Rudd with the big squeeze down the inside to get the job done. Finally, at long last, moves and get it done. And that was commitment plus from Dylan Rudd. That was aggressive, hard fought, and well done.
Yeah, they're really throwing everything, all caution to the wind here to get these moves done. Keep an eye on the outside as well. Costello getting in and amongst it. He's just put a move there on Rick Kuznetsov going around the outside, or actually just retaining that position. So he's in there now. The cork in the bottle, though, has been released, as you see Rudd now being able to get his way through. The next big thing, though, is when these guys catch up to our front two from Phoenix Racing, will we potentially see Pereira be the sacrificial lamb here? And again, maybe hold these guys up to allow Leonage a little bit more leeway to push forward.
I'm just trying to work out exactly who that stop-go penalty was for. It was for Craig Schultz, the 208, position number 27 at the moment. Schultz is in pit lane serving a drive-through penalty. So no good luck coming Schultz's way at the moment. Lap 16 of 42. Oh. It's just ignited this one, and we don't know where to look. There's battles all over the place here at Barber. You can tell that the boys that dominated last week at Winston Kuznetsov and also Shepard are getting somewhat impatient here. But you got to keep a lid on it, Daniel. It's no good getting impatient, throwing it down the road and doing yourself an injustice.
Definitely not. I mean, we're only lap 16 of 42 laps, and we've been talking this whole time of tyre conservation and getting these cars through right to the last pit stop there. They're not leaving anything on the table because we just see a big slide across the top of the hill there for Aaron Dodd. That'll look great on the photos post-race. But, yeah, the guys just need to settle it down just a touch here, pick the moves where they need to get it done. Because as we've seen on consecutive laps where they fire it down through the reverse carousel there, they're not getting the cars pulled up enough after they've made the move into 5.
Exactly right. Have a look at it now. Kuznetsov holding Shepard at bay. Costello's just ahead of them. Then, of course, you look further beyond that. Sure, McNamara, Blake Delaney, Dylan Rudd's released himself from that gaggle. It's already bolted. Look at the gap between Rudd and Delaney already. It's a good 7 or 8 car lengths. Now he's out in pursuit of Pereira and Leonage, and no doubt they'll be sitting up taking notice. Starting to sweat a little bit because they know what Rudd is capable of here. Now, I'm keeping an eye on the clock, and I'm keeping an eye on the lap counter as well, Daniel, because if Rehan and Dylan are on their way to 21 laps and on their way to a fuel save mission of getting home on one stop, I'm starting to think that it could be the losing strategy for one, but two, it might also be a case of they might need another safety car to help them achieve it on the numbers of fuel because, McNamara started the outside, ended the inside, got the job done, and here comes Rainer Costello to ambush Blake Delaney as well. They topple him, they gang up on him, and they just hang him out to dry. Brian Borg's the last one in the train there, trying to get down the inside of Delaney coming onto the main straight. Of course, Kuznetsov and Shepard have already capitalised on that, and poor old Blake Delaney a sitting duck.
Yeah, three for one there through the second to last corner there. We're going to jump back to a replay and just check out the onboard action here as the guys work their way through it. And it was all set up from the run through the back chicane there. Yep. Let's have a look at how this run unfolds there. So Delaney, we've seen him go very, very defensive down the inside. Not really where you want to be. You can't really hold the momentum there. You get squeezed as you get up over the curb there. And then, as we see, McNamara just holds it down the inside there. He's got right away here. He can just fire it down the third gear, get the car in, and then keep an eye on Costello. Just slingshots the car through, picks up the extra little momentum, and then right behind you've got to keep an eye on Corey Shepard and Rick Kuznetsov there. Those guys eagerly watching this, and I can guarantee you the minute they saw Costello down the inside, which is right here where he is, you can see the change in attitude of Kuznetsov's car. He flies it in. Corey Shepard right in behind there, picking up the throttle again as well, just to settle in behind, because he knows if he can latch onto his teammate there. For Blake Delaney, he is staying out wide. He's not coming back anytime soon. And
absolutely nothing Blake Delaney was able to do about that, because once the floodgates open, everybody capitalised. Everyone wanted a piece of it, and they succeeded, with the exception of Brian Borg. He's still stuck in behind Delaney. Across the line we go. Margin first to third is 2.28. We're watching that with interest because Leonage and Pereira are on a different strategy to Rudder, McNamara, and everybody else. And, yeah, it could be a case if their luck's about to run out. We'll wait and see. If they get another safety car, all bets are off. David Kirby with a grassy moment there, a grassy excursion. Just having a look through the field here. The longevity of these drivers is fantastic. There are obviously Bruce Tunnock's out of the race. He's the only one. Thomas Freeman in pit lane at the moment has... I'm just having a look there. Thomas Freeman's actually manually disconnected. So Thomas Freeman from pit lane has retired from the race. He's parked the car out the back. Thrown the toys out of the cot. That was his second drive-through of the night that was mentioned on screen there just a short while ago. So I think he's cut his losses on that, and he's gone.
Yeah, just have a look in the background too. Looks like Brian Borg's managed to get through on Delaney as well. Now, while all that action was going on, and we've seen Dylan Rudd obviously a handful of laps earlier get away from this group, got to keep an eye on the pace that he's setting at the moment. Last time through for him was a 1:23.58. Our race leader, Rian Leonage, a 1:24.17. So definitely a lot more pace at the moment as the guys get very, very squirrely there on the front straight. But the pace at the moment is definitely in favour of Dylan Rudd and Sean McNamara. Those guys are on a 100%. Charge now.
They were half a second quicker than Leonage and Pereira last time round. So just repeating that news, Thomas Freeman got issued a second drive-through penalty, brought it into pit lane, switched the ignition off and said, I've had a gutful, I'm gone, I'm done. But at least he hasn't what you'd call rage quit, where they just parked on the side of the road and hit the ESC. He's at least done the right thing and brought it into pit lane so that the race can continue on. So well done on that note. But yeah, a night that he would live to forget, no doubt, with the two drive-through penalties to his name. Race control won't view too favourably on that. In the meantime, here come Pereira and Leonage. Leonage the lead up. This guy's just all class. And I guess he's going to get a bigger test this year because of the likes of Shepard and Kuznetsov who've joined the server. But he's shown that he's more than capable of going punch for punch with them. And that's what we like about Rihan Leonage. And now he's into pit lane. So now I can't see them getting home on one stop. They definitely... No, it's the end of lap 20. They needed to get a couple more out of it. It's not going to happen. So they're both in. Christar's in. Delaney's in. They managed to get to the end of lap 20. So really, they didn't actually save anywhere near enough under that safety car to warrant going the way they've done. It's always a fraught with danger situation, isn't it, Daniel, when most of the field zig and you zag. Sometimes, but very rarely, does it pay off.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at that because we like we were saying under safety car, we should have seen these
hang on,
guys.
Mate. Shepard trying to get by Kuznetsov, can't get it done. Continue on, mate. Sorry.
Well,
Hold
no. The last thing you want is the two teammates going hammer and tong at it. I can guarantee you, Mr. Brian Borg sitting in behind looking at this is going to be shaking the head no end, going, "Come on, lads, settle it down, switch positions if you need to." But no, back to the point about the guys there up the front there. I'm really surprised they couldn't get a few more laps out of it. We were saying park it in sixth gear, lift and coast. There's plenty of undulation around here. Just give it a little dab to maintain the race pace that you need behind the safety car there. They should have got 1 to 2 more laps. I think they are really starting to bank. A Shepard goes very, very wide across the top of the hill. Fortunately, not to throw that thing in the fence. They're banking on another safety car.
Yep, absolutely right. I mean, very rarely do we get 2 safety cars in a sprint race. So again, they're gambling for the underdog result, if you like, for the rare result. But I guess they put themselves in that position. So it's always a it's always one of those instances where you hope for the best, expect the worst, and deal with it as it comes. But no, it's obviously not worked out the way they would have hoped to this point. Down they come. Big lock up and gone. I tell you what, that was a big save, a good save. It could have been so much worse, but that's a big chunk of time lost.
Yeah, you can't pull that off with a reverse entry, but mate, he did well to pull that thing up and not find his way into another car there. Just looking at where Leonage and Pereira have come out after that stop, we saw those guys 1 and 2 just prior to it. They're back down in 23rd and 24th positions respectively. That is not really working in their favour.
No, not at all. Yeah, I'm a little bit stunned actually. I'm a little bit speechless with regards to that. The words that I want to, get out are on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't do it at this point in time. Such is the abnormality of that result for those guys. Normally they're, switched on. They're right there when it comes. They can go strategy play with the best of them. And tonight it has backfired somewhat significantly. Again, you're playing a very, very dangerous game there when you're gambling and hoping for the unusual second, or the very rare second appearance of the Porsche safety car. But yeah, this will be one of those nights they may well live to rue, unfortunately for the Phoenix squad. But in the meantime, let's go back to McNamara, because he's sitting in there in second at the moment. It's team 1-2. Rudd, McNamara, Rainer Costello wants to, flex his muscle here and upset the party and wedge himself in between the two teammates for 9-5 Sim Sport. Been a nice start from both of them. McNamara up 1, Costello up 4. Dan was mentioning some of the big movers throughout the course of the night. 14 positions for Simon Chadwick, 12 for Dean Alessi. They're the big movers thus far. Cameron Jones from pit lane, 15 positions gained. Everybody else in single digits at this point in time. Thomas Freeman and Bruce Tunnick both out of the race. And now there's a warning. Unsportsmanlike conduct for car 017, which is Brian Borg. So there's a warning being issued to Brian Borg. Not sure what that's all about. All we can tell you is it's unsportsmanlike conduct. Yeah,
it was in relation to the comms usage. So I just picked that up across the race control channel.
Yep. So that'll be one of those instances where, hang on now, it's a drive-through penalty or car number 08 for a pit lane infringement. So 08 is on its way to pit lane for a pit lane infringement. That is Blake Delaney. That'll be what we were talking about at the start of the call, Daniel. I would hazard a guess, using more than one allocated pit box ahead of your bay there. So again, race control cracking down on that. They're playing a strict card, a strict hand, and rightly so, because consistency is what and intentional blocking as well is what we're hearing with regards to the bad sportsman flag. So, I mean, obviously Delaney, that's going to be disappointing for him as well, because he was already on a disadvantaged back foot, if you like, going on the same strategy as Pereira and also Leonage. Good move there on the inside by the KFC entry. No mucking around from them. That's Cameron Jones continuing his charge through the field, is it not? Yep, up into 12th now, Jones. Very nicely done. Simon Vella coming into pit lane now as well. So the 08 Blake Delaney into pit lane for a drive-through for a pit lane infringement. And obviously the warning to Brian Borg for unsportsmanlike conduct. But yes, there are rules in place with regards to pit lane, which we've already detailed, which is you can only overlap on one pit lane prior to your box. That's number one. Number two, yes, race control in the RSRA Super Series is a very much don't speak until unless you're spoken to sort of race control server. So that's with regards to in-race communication between drivers and between teams and between race control as well. And if that's the case, that's what Brian Borg's in a little bit of trouble for. It'll be a misuse of comms or you know, speaking out of turn or saying something that he shouldn't. Now, Rainer Costello's come into the pit lane. It looked like it was shooting off the racetrack. That's just unfortunately the angle of pit lane at Barber Motorsport Park. We're on lap 26 of 42.
I was just about to bring this point up.
We're in
So
that
we've
window.
crossed the critical lap number now, and these guys can get these cars home from here. So we've got Shepard, Costello, Wade Sheedy. You just see him slide in the Premier car into the lane there as well. Those guys all came in lap 7. They are ready to get these cars home now. Fresh set of boots going on all these cars.
And that's the other interesting point as well. They managed to get 26 laps out of those fresh tyres that they started the race on, helped by the fact that they had 3 laps under caution, Dan, obviously. But, yeah, no one was going to be stupid enough to take fresh tyres on lap 6 or 7.
No, not at all. Now, we do need to be careful here. We've got a very slow-moving car down the back straight here. We may potentially see a safety car unless they can get that car back to the lane. I'm just trying to work out who that is. They're just coming across turn 12 and they're about to get that car up over the hill there. So they might get that thing home just in time. We should avoid another safety car.
The fingers and toes at the Phoenix Racing squad were very much crossed when you were saying that. They would have loved nothing more than a second safety car. Again, it goes against the odds. They were, you know, playing a game of poker. They were playing a game of blackjack with the safety car, and the safety car is winning this one at the moment.
Well,
and it's like 26 or 42 here at the moment, and we've got the 3 leaders in now, mate, too. So Dylan Rudd, Sean McNamara, Rick Kuznetsov all in the lane. So too Aaron Dodd and Simon Chadwick, Brian Borg and Brenton Nitschke continuing on.
Yeah, look, we've got to keep an eye on where these two are. So they're currently down in 12th position. We've got all the way from the top 10 now in the lane. So they might actually vault themselves up pretty handsomely here once this all plays out. Looking at where the pit stop cycled through for Costello, Shepard, and they all fell in behind Leonage. Now, we know they're going to be very, very touch and go for a second pit stop here.
So drive-through penalty now as well for car 393 for a pit lane infringement. That's, whoa, look at the logjam of traffic here. Rainer Costello and the overcut and the undercut. The undercut and the overcut. Even Steven there at the moment. But I tell you what, it's all to play for at the moment here at Barber Motorsport Park. Dylan Rudd in 5th place, and then this logjam of traffic. Costello, Shepard, McNamara, Kuznetsov, and Sheedy, all within striking distance of one another. Dylan Pereira, of course, Rehan Leonage still to stop. Dylan Rudd with the undercut gets Rainer Costello the overcut, but Sean McNamara's overcut has somewhat backfired, unfortunately. So Shepard and Costello capitalise and leave McNamara behind.
Hayden sold there with a pit lane infringement, car 897, so he'll have
and
to make
Simon
another
Vella
tour.
before him as well, mate. So Vella and, as you say there, the other entry, both coming to pit lane. So those indiscretions are creeping in as we get further into the race. Hayden Sell, unfortunately, a little bit of an experience with regards to these rules. He's been caught out. Brian Borg, Brenton Nitschke, Kai Turner into pit lane now. Not as many pit lane penalties as we got first time that rule was introduced, but still more than you'd expect given how long the rule has been in for.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the rule brought in there to obviously make it more of a realistic experience for the guys here on the race weekend. We've seen, anyone who's jumped onto iRacing to an official server will see everyone just trundle straight down through all the pit boxes there. We don't want that. We want to make it a bit more realistic. Now, down the inside there, we've got Dylan Rudd having a move there on Rehan Leonage. He's going to get that move completed beautifully on the exit there, and that's how you make that move stick. Now, we saw him struggle earlier on in the race against, trying to think of the driver's name, has just escaped me, but we saw him struggle trying to get the power down there, and that was a great example of how to do it.
Absolutely, it was. So Leonage, Pereira, we're still waiting for them to come to pit lane the second time. We know that Rudd is good to get home. He's the race leader and is so by half a second. But you don't want to give this guy an inch because it's as good as a mile, and he'll rock and roll. And he'll take off. Looks like we're going to have 2 different winners in as many weeks. Another pit lane driving infringement now. This one for number 18, Kai Turner, of course. He's already had a couple of extra visits to pit lane tonight. Remember, he started there after being towed in qualifying. So very disappointing for Turner. He's now being caught out by the pit lane infringement. Costello down the inside of Pereira. Costello to third. It's effective second. It is effective second for Rainer Costello. He had a magnificent duel here last year, if memory serves, with Tom Heyman. Come up short in that. Going to be hard to catch Dylan Rudd tonight, but this guy's on track for a second place finish. Shepherd down the inside of Pereira. Thank you very much. Pereira goes a little bit wide. That allows McNamara through. Kuznetsov will want to capitalize on this as well as they head down the back straight. Can't do it. Pereira's going to cover him off. Now he pounces Kuznetsov. The switchback halfway down the back straight and gets it done. Kuznetsov to P6. How tight's the bat off a third at the moment? How good's this?
It's great to see the guys leaving absolutely nothing on the table at the conclusion of this one here. Leonage, now we know we're expecting him to come back down the lane. Pitted lap 20. We're working lap 29 there. It's going to be touch and go whether he's able to extend the range on this one. Dylan Rudd driving away from this one. Further down the field, though, Aaron Dodd and Robert Crisdale getting in and amongst. This is a scrap for the top 10 at the moment. Throw Simon Chadwick into the mix just for good measure as well. They're in 12th position. These guys are not letting anything escape.
Mate, I have to ask, outside of the norm, the guys that you expect to see at the top 10 and at the pointy end of the field, who's impressed you so far?
Look, I think all the guys have really sort of impressed me. We've seen them over the past few seasons do very, very well. I think looking at the likes of Cameron Jones, we saw him last season have a very good run. Again, doing great things again this week, up 16 spots so far. Look, all in all, I don't think I could really put an absolute pick on it. I think they've all done bloody awesome.
Fair enough. Good point. It has been a good showing thus far. Obviously, one safety car for an incident that will be on the blooper reel for a while yet. For Bruce Tuddick up and over the fence as well, the triple somersault. But everybody else has been exceptionally well behaved. A few pit lane penalties and the like, but it happens. Where are we now?
He's back in the lane now also.
Yes, so no, I know exactly what that was because I got the word in my ear that he was back in pit lane. Someone sounded surprised by that, not me, because remember, he was one of those guys on the alternate strategy with Leonage and Pereira and Delaney. Delaney obviously has come in and cleansed himself. Now, obviously, Robert Crisdale has as well. Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira yet to do it.
Yeah, we need to keep an eye on second position here because that gap between Costello and Leonage has continued to come down ever so close. Now it's 0.2 of a second there. And riding behind that, Corey Shepherd is just looking at making the bit of Morse code on the back bumper there, see whether he can press his way through. This might be an opportunity for him down into turn 5 there. See him just sneak the nose out, pulls it back in just to set up the line here. So he's definitely making the intentions clear. He is coming. There's a little bit of a slide there for Costello on the exit.
Certainly is. Shepherd's on a mission. He's a man that means business tonight. He wants a good result to back up the magnificent start to the season that he enjoyed last week. All happening at Barber. This track does not disappoint. It always throws up good racing. Occasionally you get a stinker because the track just doesn't favour close, tight-knit racing. Barber's not one of those tracks. It is delivering a cracker tonight. We're loving every piece of it. We're riding on board with Rainer Costello all over the back of Rehan Leonage at the moment. The two young blokes doing their thing. Rehan Leonage, 11 laps to go to get to the end. I think he's going to need a quick splash and dash at some point here. Everything on our numbers says that he needs splash and dash.
Yeah, not quite close enough to make that one stick. I've got to say, I'm just having a listen to the onboard audio here from Rainer. Beautiful throttle application in this car, not siding the rear wheels there. As you see Leonage with a bit of a moment over the top of the hill. Does that entice the opportunity? Just pulls it up in time. Just see the nose chopped off him. But yeah, very, very consistent on the throttle application, which is what they need for here. And this is going to help play this out. We know Leonage, though, on the number, whether he's going to make it or not.
Touch and go. We're riding with Sean McNamara at the moment. He's got Corey Shepherd and Rick Kuznetsov for company. Whatever the case, he's happy because he's got a team man out front in Dylan Rudd. And Leonage is backing the pack up in a not dissimilar way to what Blake Delaney did earlier in the race. This, with 11 laps to go, 10 at the line, is not ideal for Rainer Costello or Corey Shepherd.
No, not at all. The other thing too, I just had a quick look just at the track temp outside, 37 degrees on circuit at the moment. So that is another thing to keep in mind here. The fuel burn will be down a little bit now, as opposed to what we saw in qualifying prior to the start of the race. But Shepherd here, just getting it nearly closed in. But that's going to really start to take the life out of these tyres. And we saw the guys take those extra tyres right on that second stop there. For the majority of them, they are going to be hurting come the end of this one.
And good news tonight for motorists with regards to the federal budget as well. So being motor racing enthusiasts, I'll pass that information on a little bit later on. Leonage still defending on the inside here. Costello trying to get up on the outside, trying to put himself on the inside for the next corner. Does he get a good enough run out of 5 to set himself up nicely for 6th? Is this Costello going to 2nd? No, it's not. Not yet close enough on Leonage. Shepherd backs up. And right onto the tail there of Costello. I tell you what, it's on in earnest. At this point in time, Shepherd's looming large on Costello. Costello wants Leonage. And in behind that, you got McNamara and Kuznetsov as well. What a cracking final 10 laps we're in for here at Barber. 9 laps next time by the line. It's right by 3.5 to this gaggle of cars. And in a not dissimilar fashion to what we saw last week, we're not going to see too much of the leader because the battles exist beyond that, and that's where the attention lies at the moment. Going onto the main straight, another lap in the book. 9 to go at Barber.
So Leonage doing a phenomenal job just to hold off the pressure. He's definitely got the blinkers on there, because I can tell you, going through that reverse corkscrew, the pucker factor there would be high, as we've seen plenty of guys almost go off the circuit trying to jump the cars, get that move done. But he is holding his own beautifully. And when you think of the pressure that's being applied both through Costello and Shepherd, well, we see Shepherd down the inside. He's going to look for a move there. He's doing a phenomenal job for a man of his age.
Oh, McNamara on his outside, though. That's more of a concern for Shepherd at the moment. McNamara looking to get it past Shepherd and go to 4th. McNamara down the inside. Kuznetsov, will he go with him? No, he won't. Shepherd holds on, but only just. And all of that triggered by the fact that Leonage is doing a beautiful job of balking the pack here. Costello can't find a way by, but I reckon it's a not dissimilar situation to what we saw with Blake Delaney, Dan. And as soon as Leonage is displaced by Costello, the floodgates open, everybody capitalises and says, thanks very much.
Absolutely. Well, if we look at the lap times at the moment, they're back in the mid 124s. We look at our leader, he's out clear by a second, 123.46 last time through. This display of defensive driving from Leonage, though, is going to bring a few more contenders into this mix, which we didn't think we already had enough of. But have a look at the back there. You got Dylan Pereira closing in. He did a 123 last time by. This time through the line, have a look, another one. Well, it's 124, so only marginally slower, but he is coming into fight as well.
Oh boy, we've been racing for just on 51.5 minutes last time by the line. So because of that safety car, we'll probably push that hour bracket. But plenty of time left. If we have another safety car, as far as time certainty is concerned, it's 42 laps over 100 minutes. Well, you'd have to almost run the entire bloody thing under the safety car to even be worried about 100-minute time certainty. But that's iRacing settings, service settings, of course, for you creeping in there, ladies and gentlemen. Through they come once more, 35 and 42, 8 to go. We're watching Rehan Leonage do a beautiful job here, but at some point we're worried that he may have to come in and stop and flash and dash. But if he's good to go to the end, well, by gee, it's going to be one hell of a fight, and it's going to be one hell of a talking point. Because he could snare a podium here just through beautiful racecraft. But we've got our eyes on pit lane because we are expecting him in. Just a matter of when.
Shepherd having a look down the inside.
Big
here.
time. No. So that was always going to be the problem as well. If he got down on the inside for 15, he was going to be on the outside for 16 and then won and hung out to dry by Costello. So he tucked back in, thought better of it. Wants to have another dive going into 1. Can't get it done. Not close enough.
I think we're really starting to see the frustration starting to build from the guys. Just a couple of cars back there. Shepherd's throwing the nose at every opportunity if he can get it through, but He almost needs to now maybe just back it up just a touch, get a good quick lap in, and then just throw it through by surprise. Down the inside, is this the move that he needs? Didn't work last time. He's got the inside. That's a great job there to get through on Costello, and he's going to drive it out the exit beautifully.
That is a beautiful exit from Shepherd. So Shepherd to third and consolidated at 6th as well. Well called by Daniel Lee, who's doing a marvellous job deputising for Matt Davis at this point in time. Now Costello's on the back foot to Shepherd, but what the problem there, the big problem there is they've allowed Rehan Leonage to give himself a little bit of a buffer. McNamara wanted to capitalise on Costello and couldn't do it. Kuznetsov's in there behind as well. He's just been boxed in, hasn't he? He really has not been able to find a way forward all night long. He's only he's down one on where he started. He started 5th. He's down to 6th. He's really struggling to find his way forward tonight.
Yeah, it's that age-old attitude of fortune favours the brave there, and we just saw Corey Shepherd manage to stick the one up the inside after a couple of attempts, but McNamara's got to now get creative here. He's been bottled up for a long time. He's saved probably plenty of fuel. Not that he needed to. He came in lap 26 to complete his final stop here. But the tyre life is good. And we know, though, right behind, Kuznetsov will be coming with him the minute he sticks one down the inside. Is this the opportunity? Down into 5 there. Thinks a little bit better of it. But look at Kuznetsov. Gets the nose in. He's going to take the opportunity.
So Kuznetsov finally manages to displace Sean McNamara and get himself back up into 5th. Oh, trouble here. We've got a car off.
777.
777. It's Stephen Banks in 16th position. David Kirby also off track in 21st. So this is what's happened to David Kirby. This is coming into the last corner. Bang. Now, where did Stephen Banks end up off track in all of that? Oh, that's it. There we go.
And I just heard yellow flag.
Yellow flag. So whether it's a yellow or whether it's a safety car, we'll find out in a moment.
I think it's local.
That's a localised yellow. Rehan Leonage in the meantime. We're watching him. Hold off Shepherd. Hold off Costello. Hold off Kuznetsov, McNamara, and Pereira doing a beautiful job there in 7th place, but is slowly but surely dropping off the train there. Shepherd can't get down the inside of Leonage just yet. Where are we?
307 looking very second-hand there. I think they're going to get that back out and running, so not too much damage for Kirby, but he falls down now to 28th position, so that's unfortunate for him. Yep. Simon Valla in the lane there as well. We're just seeing the 777.
Whoa! Shepherd, sorry, I'm going to jump in there, Dan. Right around the outside of turn 5 to get the job done on Leonage and finally move up into 2nd place. Oh, that might be the move of the night from Corey Shepherd. Got the run around the outside, knew that he needed to be on the outside out of 5 to put himself on the inside for 6, and he's finally displaced the youngster in the 79. That is an astonishing move, and he'll be kicking himself that he waited so long to pull it off and execute it. What a piece of driving that was. Now Costello all over the back of Leonage like a rash. Rick Kuznetsov and Sean McNamara want a piece of the action as well. McNamara would love nothing more than to get back into the top 5. And there's Leonage. Leonage has bailed. He's gone into the pit lane. He's conceded defeat on that. There was a message up on screen there with regards to a drive-through penalty. I missed that because we were all eyes on Shepherd as Leonage and Pereira go to pit lane and concede defeat.
Well, it's gone off here right at the end there. So the message we saw was for for David Kirby, drive-through penalty for not holding the car stationary. But for Leonage, Pereira, both those drivers now out of contention, down in the lane, falling down outside the top 10. Going to be very quick stops for them. But yeah, Corey Shepherd not messing around. He's got a lot of work though to do with 3 laps left on the clock. It's 5.5 seconds now to Dylan Rudd. Not really probably going to be able to be in the position to close it down, but he's already started to put a fair bit of gap now on Reina Costello. The next thing will be whether Rick Kuznetsov can follow his teammate and get that move completed and pull himself up into 3rd position.
So, 1st and 2nd remain where they started. Reina Costello up 4 places to potentially snare his first podium of the season. Under pressure from Kuznetsov and McNamara for the final 3 laps of this race when they get back to the line. What an astonishing sequence of laps that has been. Entertainment Plus. We've come to expect nothing less on a Tuesday night. These boys are delivered in spades once more. Post-race penalty as well is going to be issued to David Kirby because he's unable to serve the drive-through. So Kirby's out of the race by the look of all of that. So too Simon Vella's still in pit lane, out of business. Mark Newton, Blake Delaney, Thomas Freeman. We've already detailed Delaney in there for 21 3/4 minutes now. So 75% race distance, 42 laps. You're looking at 31 laps for 75% race distance, isn't it? So not an ideal result for those guys tonight that are down the order and out of business. But they'll look to bounce back next week. This is the talking point, though. Dylan Rudd, a superb job tonight.
Well, he hasn't put a foot wrong in the 956 Sports entry there. And the pace at the moment, still very, very competitive. 123.4 versus 123.6 there for Shepherd, just in the top of frame. So we're not going to expect that one to come down too much as this one progresses on. Leonage and Pereira, though, after that late pit stop that those guys took, that's put them down to 12th and 13th position. So what's gone begging some big points, but they got plenty of work to do the rest of the championship to capitalise on making amends for that one.
Onto the main straight they'll go again. Rudd will have 2 laps to go. We've still got our eyes on Kuznetsov and McNamara fighting for the final 2 spots in the top 5. Rainer Costello's done a beautiful job to move his way up to 3rd as the race has unfolded. 41 42 at Barber. Birmingham, Alabama, delivering the goods again. Hope you're enjoying Tuesday Night Motorsport on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Round turn 2 they go. Then 3, the run up through 4 and down to 5. It looks like 1, 2, and 3 is pretty well sorted, locked and loaded right now. The battle for 4th, McNamara and Kuznetsov. All eyes there because with only a lap and a half to go, it's going to be a long shot to catch not only Costello, but definitely Shepherd. 5.5 seconds almost in arrears of Dylan Rudd. That's just not going to work out for him. So it's going to be chalk up 1, Corey Shepherd. There's also a post-race penalty that's been withdrawn now for the post-race penalty for car 307 has been withdrawn. So David Kirby gets away with that one.
Yeah, it looks like Kirby's been able to get that car back underway. So I think he's been able to serve the drive-through there. So no harm, no foul. We'll continue that one on. But this battle now for 4th position is right where the pressure's going to be. McNamara all over the back of Kuznetsov. We've got 1 lap to go. See whether he's able to make this move stick and get himself a few more extra points there, which we know points are all important come to the conclusion of this championship season. He's got 1 lap left in the books. I think Costello's now just got a little bit of an advantage, 0.6 of a second out front. Kuznetsov's got to keep the eyes in the mirrors.
Indeed they do. McNamara's all over him at the moment. Kuznetsov not putting a foot wrong. That'll be top 5 finishes to start the season for both Shepherd and Kuznetsov and Dylan Rudd. McNamara and Costello going along very nicely for the first time this season. We've been able to actively talk about them at length. 2 of the hot shots in last year's field. They're going to mean business again in 2022, but you can't take anything away from Dylan Rudd tonight. The margin's a little under 5 seconds now, but this has been a superb performance, an astonishing night of racing. And Dylan Rudd is going to convert pole position into a very comfortable race win. Not without a strong challenge in the early stages, of course. That safety car really changed everything up. And once Pereira and Leonage were released at the end of the first round of pit stops about lap 19, this guy took charge and did not look back. Last turn, checkered flag, 9.5 Sim Sport for the first time this season. On top of the RSRA Super Series for Goodyear Autocare Warana. Rudd wins at Barber. Brilliant drive. Smashed him out of the park. Shepherd second. So back-to-back podiums for him. Costello, his first podium of the season. Rick Kuznetsov, Shaw McNamara, the top 5. That was awesome stuff. Dylan Rudd, the race winner in the 999.5 Sim Sport entry. That was just a perfect example of why this guy was so dominant and so consistent and so feared by his opponents and rivals around him last season. It was a timely reminder that these guys, even though the bar's been raised by the presence of the Premier boys, Daniel, these guys are here to fight, and they'll fight as good as anybody in the paddock.
Absolutely. I mean, they've really lifted to another level there, and we saw just the drive and consistency from both Rudd and later on in the event we saw from McNamara as well. Those guys have got the cars dialed first and foremost, which is what you need, but the racecraft and consistency was faultless. Watching Rudd at the very end there, he continued to just hover at a 123.5, 123.56. Didn't really miss a beat there for those last 10 laps there. He was on rails.
Certainly was. I mean, Corey Shepherd had to work really hard for that second place, but it just goes to show that his racecraft is good as well. It really wasn't put to the test last week, was it? But this week, as we wait for Dylan Rudd to come around onto the main straight and celebrate in style, his racecraft was really put to the test tonight, and he delivered in spades. We'll get your comment on that in just a moment. In the meantime, for the first time tonight, ladies and gentlemen, crank up the volume and enjoy Dylan Rudd doing what Dylan Rudd does. Magnificent stuff from Dylan Rudd here at Barber Motorsport Park. A statement-making performance from him, and not quite picking up where he left off last season, of course, because that would have been last week that we would have been able to make that comment and mean it, but certainly putting everything back on the table as far as his performances from last year were concerned, and showing everybody what he's got and what he's still got. That was great to see. Rudd from Shepherd and Costello, 2 Fords, 1 Holden on the podium, but in the top 10 it was 6 and 4 in favour of Holden. Rick Kuznetsov, Sean McNamara, then Brian Borg. Wade Sheedy home for 7th. Didn't really talk about him much tonight, did we? He really minded his own business and had a quiet night at the office. Aaron Dodd, Simon Chadwick. Cameron Jones, the big mover of the night, up 19 positions from, 29th to 10th. An extraordinary drive from him. Over the page we go. Brenton Nitschke, Rehan Leonage, Dylan Pereira. Jamie Dyke, good fight back after how it started for Jamie, up to 14th place. Dean Alessi, Stephen Banks. Not sure what happened to Banks there in the closing stages, because when we were watching David Kirby run into trouble, Banks was also off the circuit. Matty Scholes, Brian Good, Hayden Sell, and Craig Schultz. So Ford dominated that part of the 10 of the field, I should say, 6 and 4, and then Holden all the way back down to 29th, with the exception of Robert Crisdale and Simon Vella. In between them was Kai Turner, John Gillies, and David Kirby, 22nd, 3rd, and 4th. 26 was Mark Newton, then Blake Delaney, then Thomas Freeman and Bruce Tunnock. The good news is top 24 get classified. Everyone else misses out because they just missed the 75% marker, including Daniel Stevens, who managed to get 2 laps under his belt tonight in the safety car. So good to see the safety car get a run. No point putting all the effort and work into A, getting a safety car driver, or B, putting a paint scheme on it if you can't use it every now and then. We've got Corey Shepherd, Dylan Rudd, and Raina Costello standing by here to have a chat to us tonight after the second round of the championship. Guys, you got Daniel Leet and obviously yours truly here with you for the next, what have we got, boys? About 35 minutes before we'll wrap this up. And that's the good thing with the later race start time. The post-race show doesn't have to go as long if it doesn't need to. 1 hour, 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Of course, again, if they didn't have the safety car, they probably would have snuck that in inside 60 minutes. But a superb performance all the same from Dylan Rudd. Dylan, nice to have you on board, mate. 9.5 Sim Sport back in victory lane. And of course, a timely reminder that 9.5 Sim Sport are at the top of their game, because you got 2 home in the top 5. And after the Premier boys really dominated last week, you guys needed to bounce back, and what a way to do it.
Yeah, it was definitely a change of tides, I suppose. But yeah, definitely had both. All our cars had good pace, so it was good to see.
Well, I said in the call as you crossed the line there, mate. It at the time the reminder that you've still got it. I mean, this is the sort of form that made you a feared competitor in the paddock last year. Everyone knew that you were going to be tough to beat, and you come out tonight and proved why. Barber and you seem to get along really, really well. This is a circuit that suits you.
Yes, I don't mind it. Definitely, it was going to be a good battle with Corey throughout the race. He was definitely fast, but fortunately I got past two Phoenix cars, and yeah, they ended up battling behind me, which gave me a gap at the end there.
Geez, the safety car really shook things up. It came at a very opportune moment where we knew that you could still pit under the safety car and get home on just one more stop. So it worked well for most of the field.
Yeah, so it was definitely very good time.
But it wasn't necessarily in the strategy that way, because the strategy went out the window. I'm sure you guys would have gone much further into the first stint had that safety car not come.
Yeah, I was planning to just run the tank out in the first two stops.
Exactly right. That's what we were thinking. Although that being said, that would have left you, by our numbers, with a very quick splash and dash for the final stint. Is that what you were? Is that what was showing at your end, mate?
Yeah, correct. So when the safety car came out was basically 8 laps into the race, which was, if you flip the strategy around, was 8 laps at the end. So it's kind of perfect.
Now, just talk me through. You had to work hard for that in the mid-stint there, because you had Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira opting for the long game first up. That turned out to backfire, as we somewhat suspected it might. We couldn't see them getting home on one stop. It was a long shot, given the amount of fuel you'd have to save and the probability that they needed probably another safety car, and the odds didn't stack up correctly for them on that one. But they made a good race of it while they were out there, didn't they?
Oh yeah, definitely did. I was a little surprised that they stayed out, but yeah, definitely made for some fun racing anyways.
They did. Mate, are you able to stick around, or have you got to shoot through?
Not. I gotta go. Yeah, gotta get up early in the morning. Yeah.
All right. So, with apologies to Corey Shepherd and Rainer Costello, who we'll get to in a moment, and I know Rainer's probably chomping at the bit to have a chat to us, and we're looking forward to that. Daniel, anything you want to ask the race winner tonight while we've got you as well?
Look, only a couple of things from me, mate. Dylan, the car looks very good over the course of the run. The pace consistency were there. How did you find, obviously setting up for Barber, very unique circuit, very different to the flat Winton race round one that we had. How did you find getting on board with that?
It wasn't too bad. I actually just used the Winton setup as a base for Barber, and it worked really well. Just tuned the dampers up, and that was about it.
And tyre life towards the back end of the race. I know, looking at what we saw in Tuesday's race, the tyres on the left-hand side, especially left front, popped an absolute hammering around this circuit. How did things come into the end there for you?
The tyres weren't actually too bad. It was actually quite easy to manage the tyres. So yeah, actually pretty good.
Fantastic. And I guess the last question, next week we're off to Mosport. Similar sort of, I guess, style of circuit to what we've seen tonight at Barber, very flowing, a lot of undulation. How do you think, obviously, the results from tonight are going to transcribe over to next week?
I'd like to hope the same, but yeah, only time will tell, I suppose. So yeah.
Dylan, while we've still got you, mate, just having a look at a couple of different odds and ends with regards to the server here. Race server time was set for midday local, but a very cool day by Barber Motorsport Park standards. Yes, okay, they've just come out of winter over there, but it was only showing as 19 degrees a short while ago. The track temperature, however, nearly twice that at 34. So everything worked into your favour, and in fact the entire field's favour, for a really fast race tonight, and that's exactly what we got. Tommy Heyman's record time, or race lap record time from last year, he got obliterated by your good self in the first 3 laps.
Yeah, track was definitely fast. It was good 8 to 10 degrees colder than what I was testing on. But yeah, still worked out all right.
Excellent stuff, mate. You've already, obviously, Daniel's done a beautiful job. He's done this before, obviously, ladies and gentlemen. He took control of that and really tore it up to shreds because he's already asked you about motorsport, which is the next stop. That is going to be a cracking round of the championship. But then, of course, the great unknown is Long Beach the week after for sprint racing. And we know that when you add sprint racing to a concrete canyon, it's fraught with danger. How do you guys prepare for that, more to the point? Because motorsport's a bit like Barber. There's a lot of runoff area. And then all of a sudden, things are going to get a little bit claustrophobic, for lack of better words.
It's just come down to testing. The amount of laps you do get used to running up against the wall. And yeah. Do really.
That is the case. Very nicely done, mate. I'll let you thank some sponsors before you rock and roll out of here. That was a terrific performance from you tonight. 295 Sim Sport cars in the top 5, and a message sent to the boys after last week's effort from them that they're going to have to work hard for it this year. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. I'd just like to thank Sean, all the work he puts into the team, all the other boys at 95 Sport, great bunch of guys, our sponsors, Racecraft Simulations, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears Custom Protection, Cutting Edge Tracks, and Bauer Media. And thank you guys for doing the commentary. And yeah.
Very nicely done from you, my friend. Go and rest up, enjoy, and we look forward to seeing you when we get to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park next week.
Thanks, guys.
Superb performance from Dylan Rudd. I mean, that was just clinical and reminiscent of some of the stuff that we saw from him last year when he tore it to shreds in Season 2. So looking forward to seeing more where that came from in the weeks ahead, and looking forward to seeing how Corey Shepard and Rick Kuznetsov respond to it on the back of their dominance last week. It's going to be one hell of a season. 2 rounds so far, 2 different winners, and Rudd doing it from pole position as well. Let's get to Corey Shepard at this point in time. What a week, to be perfectly fair. After Winton, we turn our attention to Barber, mate. You had an extraordinary night at the office. You really had to work hard for that second place tonight.
Definitely did. Yeah, that was a tough race out there. It was definitely very exciting the whole way through, but yeah, tough track. So easy to make a few mistakes. We definitely did in that race, but yeah, overall it was an exciting race.
A couple of hairy moments for the 9-5 boys, a couple of fraught with danger moments for you two as well. But poor old Rick had to fight very hard to move his way eventually up from 5th back to 6th, then up to 4th. But for you, started second, finished second. On paper, that looks like a really good result. Is it?
Yeah. I mean, second's always good. Up front still. I think qualifying, it would have been nice to get pole. That would have probably set us up with this track. It's so tricky to pass. When we kind of drop back to the spots there, we're really having a tough time trying to get past the cars. Definitely, yeah, a nice track if you're out in front, but yeah, still happy with second.
Excellent stuff, mate. I mean, when we look back at the tape of that race, it'll be a story of a couple of defining moments. You got boxed in there for a little bit trying to fight your way past the likes of Rainer Costello and also Rehan Leonage. You had to be committed to execute overtaking maneuvers and make them stick, or at least consolidate them tonight, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We actually had a little bit of trouble with the commitment on the first set of tyres. It was pretty loose. And I think as the race went on, we got a bit more comfortable, put the new set on, and then we're able to go a bit better into the hairpin to start making some moves. So that was good. I had to get out the front.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, you had a couple of guys there throwing the spanner in the works, namely Rehan Leonage and Blake Delaney running the alternate strategy. And that made things difficult for you guys that pitted under the safety car that didn't get clear air off the restart. Once Dylan got clear air, no one was able to go with him. But in saying all of that, it was the right strategy move to make on lap 6 and 7 when the safety car was called to dive in.
Yeah, we think so. Yeah, we saw a few cars stayed out. We kind of thought, yeah, I don't know. We didn't think that would have been an ideal strategy. We did kind of weigh it up, but then we definitely definitely opted to get in because you could make it on one stop to the end. So did that, and that worked out well. But yeah, having the 3 cars out in front definitely spiced it up a bit.
Exactly right. If you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, we're almost at the 2-hour mark of Tuesday Night Motorsport for this particular week. We've had a lot of fun. We hope you have as well, but stick around because there's still a bit to come here as we wrap things up in the post-mortem and take you up towards 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Bit of breaking news coming through from MotoGP as well that I'll get to. Federal budget's been released tonight. The cricket's on. Plenty to get through in the post-race show as we turn your attention to what else you can watch from the world of sport as the night unfolds. Daniel, I'm going to leave the floor to you at this point in time to throw a couple of questions Mr. Shepherd's way, and if I think of anything else, I'll come back in.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Look, the other real thing for me, Corey, right at the back end there, you found yourself in a very stout battle for what ultimately turned out to be second position against both Rayner and Rehan. What was going on? Because you had the guys right in behind you sniffing around at every opportunity to see whether they could stick a nose in and get through. Where was your attention focused? Because I know being that sort of driver in the middle, it's hard to weigh up your opportunities. Do you look forward? Do you keep an eye on what's going on? Do you just stick to your race line? What was going through your head at that point?
A bit of everything, really. We definitely had to keep an eye on Sean in the mirror because he was moving over towards the left into the hairpin. So we had to make sure he was staying back there. And then obviously we did want to keep our eyes forward and try to make a move on Rayner while Rehan was still out in front, which we ended up doing, but it definitely took us a fair while there.
Absolutely. And once you got through, you found sort of another gear in the car and pressed on. We saw also a little earlier between yourself and Rick, you'd made a little bit of a mistake early on just after the restart there. I think it was Dylan Rudd, you managed to get into the back of down in through 2. You had to redress, you fell off the back a little bit. Rick got in front of you. What was going on with the team orders there? Because it looked like Rick was a little maybe over defensive, where you'd be thinking the 2 teammates, obviously on the communication, mate, down the inside, let me go. How does that work from the inter-team rivalry?
Well, in Premier, we've got no team orders, so everyone's out there racing. Obviously, we try and be smart about it, and I don't know, sometimes you might let them through if they're on a different strategy or doing whatever you're doing, but yeah, no team orders. So yeah, out there. No.
Fantastic, mate. And I guess, look, before I let you go, and we'll jump back a little bit later on. You brand new in the season. We saw you get the win round 1, come back second round 2. How have you found switching over and coming and having a run with the RSRA this season so far?
Yeah, it's really cool. There's a lot of things that are unique about it, with higher strategies and just the way the series is run. Some of the rules are different, and yeah, it's really quite cool. RSRA's done like a good job trying to match real life and implementing all the real life rules into the series. So that's really cool.
Absolutely, mate. Well, look, you did a phenomenal job there to get yourself back into second at the end of the race. It was an awesome run.
Thanks, man.
Corey, we'll come back to you very shortly because we'll obviously attack Motorsport and a few other things here. Let's bring in one of our all-time favourites in Rayner Costello at this point in time. Geez, that looked like fun.
Yeah, it got pretty hectic at some points. Had to really use my brain a little bit to make sure I backed out of some situations where other drivers weren't quite being as smart and really pick my moments. But in the end, it all sort of came together.
Indeed, it did. Obviously, we heard Corey mention the importance of qualifying there earlier, and he reckons that might have been, a contributing factor to the reason why Dylan Rudd got the better of him tonight. What about you? You had to work hard for third after qualifying 7th, mate. Not your finest effort in qualifying.
Yeah, didn't quite have the qualifying pace, but I knew that our race pace was pretty strong. So just made sure I got a good start and made up quite a few positions on the opening lap, and then just sort of closed up on the front guys, and then yeah, just got a bit unlucky with where we popped out after that last pit stop. Otherwise, could have been a bit of a better position, but yeah, I was pretty happy with that considering our qualifying.
Matt Davis throwing hand grenades at me on social media with regards to daylight saving. I'll get to him a little bit later on, and he'll keep. But in the meantime, back to you, Rayner. At this point in time, mate, with regards to the race itself, by gee, it's going to be tense at the top end of town this season, because for a good while there was a battle pack of 5 for second, and you were right in the thick of it. How'd you enjoy that for one? and how stressful was it for two? Because as soon as you put a foot wrong, it was almost like a death sentence in many respects, because you were standing to lose 2, 3, 4 race positions. It was a pressure cooker.
Yeah, it was quite intense in that last stint. In terms of enjoyment, didn't enjoy it too much. It wasn't the finest driving by another car, but to hold us up. But yeah, as in terms of intensity, it did get pretty intense because we had everyone banked up right behind us. So had to be careful where I went for a move, and just making sure that Corey and Macca didn't get passed behind. But yeah, in the end, just got held up a little bit too much and it allowed Corey through.
Well, I was going to say one of the moves of the season. I'm just trying to remember. I know it was one of the two of you. Corey, was it you that displaced Rayner around the outside at Rehan around the outside at turn 5 there?
Yes, I think it was. Down the hairpin, I went around the outside.
Yeah. And then obviously that put you on the inside for the next corner. Beautifully executed overtaking maneuver from you. Move of the night, I called it on comms at the time. And it kind of, led off the chain reaction there, because not long after that we saw Rehan end up in pit lane and the pack was released. But it comes off what Rayner was saying about one car holding us up. It goes back to the point that Daniel and I made at the very start of the broadcast, and I'll get both of you guys to weigh in here, that whilst there are ample overtaking opportunities around this circuit, it's a very difficult track in which to, firstly execute those overtaking maneuvers cleanly and then consolidate them immediately thereafterwards. Executing them's fine. Holding on to them, not so. Case in point, that run out of turn 5, if you're on the inside out of 5, you're on the outside for 6, and all of a sudden you're in a little bit of trouble. So you had to really think tactically tonight, didn't you, boys? Go you first, Corey.
Yeah, you definitely did. Yeah, I think it's one of the tracks where every corner kind of, you're on the inside, then the following one puts you on the outside. So you've got to get it done. When you get it done, there's not really a corner where you can just kind of hug the inside, and the next one's inside and the full easy as well. So tough track. Yeah, I think going around the outside there, I didn't really expect to be able to do that, but it worked out in the end. Saw Real moved over to the left a bit, then I thought I'd fire down the outside as deep as I could, and somehow we managed to stick around the outside. So
I'll give you a tip right now. When you go back and watch the replay of it, just as that moment's approaching, turn the volume down. It got pretty loud in the booth when you pulled that off. It was very nicely done. Rayner, your comment on that as well at this point in time, bearing in mind, polar opposite racetrack to Winton. When you think Winton, tight, technical, difficult mongrel of a circuit for overtaking. When you think here, wide open spaces, fast flowing, excellent overtaking opportunities. But as we just said, consolidating those overtaking opportunities was the key challenge tonight. Yeah,
definitely. I think probably the same as what Corey said about being able to overtake. But Winton was a real hard one to try and overtake as well. But yeah, I think the winding up the hill traction zone out of turn 2, that was sort of a good place to overtake cars into the hairpin if you got a nice run out of there. But then you also had the problem of it being a downhill braking zone, and you don't want to lock your rear tires and have an incident, because it can also make you vulnerable for the next corner. So yeah, you've got to really pick your overtaking passes wisely here to make sure that you make them stick.
Now, can I offer you a consolation prize, considering that Corey displaced you out of what could have been second position?
I have an idea of what you're going to say.
2 drivers had clean races tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Get the bonus point to go with it. One was Brenton Nitschke, the other Rayner Costello. Well done.
Thank you.
He's quite happy, quite chuffed with himself, isn't he? But you know more than most, don't you, young man, the importance of one bonus point in this championship.
Yeah, definitely. It's just going to be a championship of just making every point that we can get count, and I think as long as you can make sure you put your car in the right spot, that's one I definitely want to try and take advantage of this season. So yeah, that also probably changed the way I was driving a little bit, just trying to make sure I got that clean race bonus. But yeah, that was definitely something that was there in the front of my mind.
Now, talk to us because, I mean, obviously we got a chance to chat with Corey last week and got him to introduce himself. But, I mean, you're a regular in these parts now, but we haven't had a chance to chat to you in quite some time, mate. What have you been doing in what was a very long off season by sim racing standards?
Well, I did stay driving the supercars a fair bit just to keep my head in the game and make sure I was ready for this year. But also been away doing a fair bit of go-karting on a national level. So we're gonna keep doing the Australian Kart Championship. So I feel like it's good.
Next stop for that is old mate South Australia, is it not?
Yep, sure is.
Looking forward to seeing how you go down there immensely, mate. Good luck from all of us. And how much time? Because obviously the karting takes preference with the nationals. But how much time went into the sim rig over Christmas to New Year? Did you put it away for a little bit? Did you set it to one side and do some other stuff, or were you still keeping yourself match fit?
Well, on the day of Bathurst, I actually packed up the whole sim rig because we were moving house. So I had a couple of weeks off of sim and then sort of came back. But once I was back on there, I was definitely doing quite a few races because I had I've always got speed around Bathurst, but I wanted to find a little bit more pace around some of the other tracks. So that was the main goal, find a little bit more pace.
Very nicely done. Now, let's bring Daniel in at this point in time. Dan, any questions you want to fire at young Rayner, please?
Look, well, obviously we saw last season, Rayner, switching teams for yourself. You've moved over to some new colours for this season, and obviously yourself and Sebastian Barndell, who took out the Super 2 feature race last night, seem to be working along pretty well together. Was there much insight that Sebastian was able to give you from last night's exchange to help you out for tonight at all?
Well, I haven't actually had a chance to talk to Sebastian. I've messaged him, but yeah, it was a great performance he put on last night in Super 2, and I went back and watched the broadcast just to see how their racing was sort of going, and that did give me a little bit of insight as to where some passing opportunities may be tonight. But yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to Sebastian first.
Well, whatever you guys have found in the setup, mate, it's absolutely working wonderfully for you, because you're right up the front, up the pointing end, and you're taking it to the likes of Corey and Dylan. So I think those guys are going to be keeping a fair eye on the heels, because you're right there to get them. Next week, off to Mosport. Again, somewhat similar, I guess, to Barber. It's a very flowy circuit, a lot of undulation there. What are your thoughts moving forward to that one? Obviously, we did get a bit of a taste of it when we were going through the pre-qualification phase for both Super 2 and Super Series. How do you find the track? Is it one you enjoy at all?
Yeah, I quite like Mosport. It's probably one of the newer ones that I've learnt, but yeah, I quite enjoy it. I like the sort of open flowing nature of the track, and car placement is really important around Mosport, and just making sure your lines are right, making your gear changes, and yeah, there's some real critical corners, but yeah, it's definitely one that I enjoy.
Fantastic. Well, looking forward to seeing what you're able to get behind the wheel, both yourself in the main game and for your teammates in the Super 2 series as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see what we can do. And also, shout out to Hayden. He had great pace in qualifying, but unfortunately, a few unlucky incidents in the race meant he couldn't quite finish in the position he wanted. But he'll keep pushing.
Rayner, just going back to you for a moment, and then we'll bring Corey back into the discussion as well. You look at the calendar. I asked the same question of the guys last week, but it's your first time in here for the season, so you get the fresh batch. If you look at the calendar, are there any circuits you're looking at thinking, oh crap, or are you happy with the layout of the schedule as it is?
Well, I haven't actually quite looked at the calendar.
JP, we'll get it up on screen for this young man so we can get a little bit more organised with his life, please. There it is, on screen now.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty good calendar. I actually have all the tracks this season.
There you go.
But yeah, obviously Oran Park will be a good one. Bathurst. I like Sao Paulo. That's a really good track. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Mosport next week as well.
2 sprint rounds in there, of course, namely Oran Park and Long Beach. How cruel. And of course, 2 longer races there with Road Atlanta. That will be well worth the price of admission. And of course, Mount Panorama as well, 250 kilometers for those. Remembering, folks, I'm going to say it again, just for the likes of Matt Davis, who like being reminded, 8:05 Australian Eastern Standard Time next week. We wind the clocks back in the progressive and civilized parts of the country on Sunday morning, which does everyone in the, not so progressive and civilized states like me in Queensland a hell of a lot of justice and a big favour. Although that being said, I reckon Queensland should just get with the program. But unfortunately, politicians in this part of the world like sitting on their hands and watching the world go by. But that's another story for another day. Rainer, bearing all that in mind, you are a Queenslander, unfortunately for you as well as me. We've been left in the dark ages. We're an hour behind all summer. It was amazing yesterday that it took something like the Academy Awards out of Hollywood being delayed by an hour to remind people that, yes, there is a price to pay. There is an invoice that comes through on being an hour behind, and it is that you get delayed television programs. People hadn't made that direct correlation that, they hadn't made the connection of the dots until yesterday, and it's been happening for 25 bloody weeks. But let's focus on the positive, and that is next week. The fact that the race is a little bit later on into the evening, does it do you a favour in terms of a little bit of extra time to prepare?
Well, it'll make it easier for Mum because she always has to cook dinner earlier on RSRA nights. So so it'll definitely make it a bit easier there. So she'll be happy about that. But yeah, it'll probably be a good thing that it's a little bit later for us. So yeah.
Not wrong, and I share your mum's pain as well, because I said to the boys when I jumped into the booth earlier this evening, I cannot wait for next week. I can actually cook a proper meal and not dish it up at the time it's being dished up in the nursing home not far from here. But that says more about them than it does us. Now, I'm getting the wind up here from my producer, and I'm not going to say why. Let's just say it has something to do with pit stops and leave it at that. So when we look towards next week, Corey, 2 things here. One, the strategy game tonight. The early safety car kind of took the strategy game away from us, and it all but ensured that no one was changing tyres on that first round of pit stops. Normally, you get 95% of the field that zigs and takes tyres the first stop, 5% zags. Tonight, everyone zigs because running 6 laps to then run 36 on a different set of tyres, you were going to do yourself a complete injustice at the end of that race. So next week, when we get to Mosport, provided we don't get an early race car, it'll be safety car, I should say. It'll be very interesting to see how the strategy plays out there.
Yeah, it definitely will. I think tyres will make a big difference in Mosport. A lot of passing going on. Wow, kind of down the back straight, there's a lot of passing going on. Everywhere else, there's really not too much of that going on, much like this track. But yeah, I think the tyres will make a big difference, and the strategy definitely has to be on point.
Indeed. Rainer, I mean, again, it was one that was. I said in the call when we were talking about, we were punching the number straight away. We were, trying to do the mental arithmetic on the go here. We knew that Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira had disadvantaged themselves. 9 times out of 10, going against the grain doesn't work for you. It's a big gamble to play so early in the season, hoping that tonight's going to be one of those 1 in 10 moments.
Yeah, that kind of wasn't a strategy choice that we were going to look at. Yeah, like you said, it is definitely a bit risky, but we did know that Rehan was going to be coming in, or we thought we did. And then, yeah, we just wanted to get past Rainer before that happened, because Rainer was getting held up a little bit there, so we needed to make that move early.
Thank you to you, Corey Shepherd, but that actually I wanted Rainer Costello's thoughts on very quickly. Rainer, quickly enlighten me and educate me, and then I've got to wrap it up, get you two to thank some sponsors and get out of here.
Strategy was immediately sort of thrown out the window when the safety car came out, because it sort of put everyone on the same strategy. But yeah, like Corey said, was expecting the Phoenix cars to come in as well. But yeah, that was pretty much the strategy. Just put tyres on at the second stop and then go from there.
All right, before the Facebook Messenger chat goes completely off tap, let me get some final thoughts here. Some sponsor thank yous, please, from Corey Shepherd, and firstly, Rainer Costello.
I'd like to thank Goodyear Autocare Warana. I always have trouble with that one. Custom Ears, Hearing Protection, F Suicide, SimShed Broadcasting, and we support No Social Hate.
Indeed, we do. And more on that next week, because we didn't exactly get a huge opportunity to have a chat about that last week, given how long the race ran. And yeah, we'll definitely have a chat with that when Matt Davis is back on deck next week. Although that being said, he's clearly back from dinner because he's firing cheap shots on socials. But that's another story. Corey Shepherd, the floor is yours, my friend. Back-to-back podiums to start the season. A good start.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I just want to thank the team and all the team sponsors, Racecraft, and everyone on board. Also, big thanks to Mum and Dad and everyone watching on at home. And also, big thanks to you guys.
Very nicely done, boys. Now, there was some good news for those of you that own motor cars coming out of the federal budget tonight. Let me just quickly give everybody some good news here, because the pressure's going to come off at the fuel bowser in the next short while. 7 News ran the story on socials earlier tonight. Let me see if I can bring it up. The fact of the matter is you're going to save 22 cents a litre from tomorrow. There's going to be a fuel levy sort of deal with the government looking after things between now and September 28, I think it will be. So that's a really good result, really good outcome for everybody. And that means that for the next short while, you're not going to feel the pinch as much at the bowser. But again, if you want to go off and watch some late news bulletins with regards to all of that, it will have all the information there for you. Here it is. Fuel excise cut. My apologies. It was 9 News, not 7 News. Yeah, starts at midnight tonight and 22.1 cents a litre. So the fuel excise is halved from 44.2 cents to 22.1. On average, you'll save $10 per full fuel tank, 40-litre tank. Which means a little bit more for anyone that has bigger than 40 litres like me, and that will ensure that that runs through to September 28th. The ACCC to ensure petrol stations pass on the savings. I'm sure that we're all breathing a sigh of relief on that tonight. Quickly to some news out of MotoGP. Marc Marquez has been ruled out of the Argentine Grand Prix. Again, that is a direct consequence of the high side in Indonesia and the double vision diagnosis thereafter. And for cricket fans, you can go and enjoy the first one-day international between Australia and Pakistan tonight, because that is being played in Lahore until the early hours of tomorrow morning. 20 overs gone. Australia won for 138. Travis Head, 91 off 62 balls. Absolutely going along, all guns blazing there in the early stages. It's like he's playing a T20. Aaron Finch dismissed for 28, and Ben McDermott on 14 at the moment, 1 for 138 for the Australians. So they're the three things that I wanted to get off the chest before. Well, actually, there's one more thing. But firstly, I want to bring in Daniel Lead, who did a superb job filling in for Matt Davis tonight and threw around far less cheek as well. So let's bring him in for a quick wrap-up and a quick synopsis and analysis of all of that, mate. Superb race, great night at the office. Dylan Rudd, too good. The battle for second held our attention from first until last. Couple of disappointing moments, and Bruce Tunnock's high side, well, he'll be dizzy for a few days.
Well, yeah, look, first off, we've got to give Bruce an E for effort on that one. He did a hell of a job there, so congratulations to him. Hopefully we'll see him back on four wheels next week out. But no, you're right. The racing, all jokes aside, was absolutely fantastic. The guys didn't give an inch. When they did overstep the line just a fraction, they brought it right back in, reset, and went again. So it was great. I thought cannot wait to see what it goes. Next week, Mosport, going to be another big week. And as Rainer was saying, plenty of passing opportunities down the back straight there. The big one is going to be the two corners just before you get onto that back straight. Big rise up the hill, very big braking there. And you got the gravel trap and a wall not too far on the outside of circuit there. So we might see a few big ones from that. But no, I've really enjoyed it. You know, coming from obviously doing Super 2 on a Monday now as opposed to tonight, last season, has been great. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how we go.
Yeah, we've flipped it around. We've given you guys a start 48 hours earlier than what you were last season. You've gone from being the dessert to being the entree, and we're still the main course. It's really good to see. Now, just quickly on your own efforts, what are your thoughts on Mosport as a driver, and what are your expectations?
Look, for starters, I'm looking forward to getting an hour back.
Yes.
Being again a fantastic Queensland associate that I am, looking forward to having that back. So, Motorsport is an interesting one. I think a lot we can take away from, obviously, as the guys are saying, Barber tonight and last night, and put that forward. Setups again going to be very, very critical. The left front is going to cop an absolute pounding around that circuit, much like they did here tonight.
Yep.
But yeah, I think trying to find out whatever these young guys are doing. I mean, they're making us old farts look bloody slow. So I've got to pull the finger out and try and catch up to them.
Exactly. And as for your commentary, mate, you're welcome back as a super sub. Fill in for Matt Davis or anyone anytime. You did a superb job. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, look, it was great. I mean, I've been in the series now for a couple of seasons. We started last season and continued on this time. And it's nice to come in and see it from the other side. And obviously the amount of work that's gone on in the off season before this one has really started to pay dividends. The series looking fantastic. Got to love the intro videos that have been put together to really hype this one up. And hats off to the man behind it all, JP. He's done a phenomenal job.
And just quickly, if you were to award any driver in this field a Driver of the Night award, who would it be after what was a superb night at the office for some and a night to forget for others?
Look, it's a tough one. I don't know. I think, you got to take the hat off to the top three. I think they get an absolutely honourable mention. They drove faultlessly there. They really placed the cars beautifully, and they gave us entertainment from start to finish. The big note, probably Simon Chadwick and Cam Jones. Those guys both taking 15 and 19 positions respectively, getting themselves inside the top 10. So it wasn't without danger. They got themselves through the field nicely after somewhat maybe poor qualifying on their standard. But it just goes to prove that you do make a little bit of a mot, so you've got to be in it at the end to win it. And points in this championship are all critical. And those guys, I think, did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, they did. And you did a great job in commentary as well, mate. Thanks for your insight and your expertise and your analysis. Look forward to having you back in the booth somewhere later down the season, no doubt, when Matt Davis takes paternity leave somewhere down the track. But that's another story for another day. Good on you, mate. Thank you.
No, you're welcome, mate. No worries at all.
Now, JP correctly pointing out that his nod goes to Brenton Nitschke because he was 11th, so right in the thick of it. And obviously got the bonus point for 0 incidents. I think Cameron Jones, despite the pit lane start, I mean, that was unfortunate for him, but to move up 19 positions and not run into any trouble himself, that's not too bad at all across the... Although that being said, he did visit pit lane 4 more times after the pit lane start. So not the easiest night at the office for him, but it's a case very much of what might have been, considering that he started that far down, from pit lane and gained the more positions throughout the course of the race than anybody else. So well done to him. But no, well done to the top 3. That was a superb race and a good showing from Rick Kuznetsov and Sean McNamara once more as well. Brian Borg will be kicking himself because that'll be a case of what might have been for him having had a moment there and lost a couple of positions along the way. Let's have a look ahead for you. Before we do, actually, let's thank all the people that do it for us here on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. We've got, see, I've been sitting here filling the gap thinking I'm missing something. Championship points. We'll get to them in just a moment too. But without the support of the following, we couldn't do what we do here on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Goodyear Autocare Warana, Real Sim Racing Australia, FU Suicide and SimShed Broadcasting, of course, also Track Cams for Gourmet, SDK Gaming, Overpass Visuals, and Sim Inc. Championship points. Then a look ahead for you. And I just realised that I'm a little bit over time now, but that's okay. $2.99 for Corey Shepherd, continues to lead the championship, but look at the margins. 2 to Dylan Rudd, 4 to Rick Kuznetsov, and then another 9 back, big gap back from 3rd to 4th in the context of the series. The points matrix to Sean McNamara, who's just 3 clear of Raider Costello. So 18 points separates the top 5. Game on for the next 10 weeks. Brian Borg makes up the top 6. Then Rehan Leonage, Cameron Jones, Dylan Pereira, and Wade Sheedy. I mean, yep. Leonage will rue what might have been tonight, but at least he's still at the pointy end of town. He finished the race. He got points. They are so crucial. You do not want a 0-point score in any round of this championship, especially when we're running the all-points count format. We'll quickly scroll over the page there for you and let you have a look at who else is doing what there. Nitschke, Dodd, Chadwick, Bank, then Skulls, Kirby, Chrisdale, Good, Schultz, and Alessi make up the top 20. Let's have a look ahead for you on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. So much to come as far as the season is concerned, and it all starts on Saturday night for you with the Custom Paints and Diecast Australian Stock Car Championship. And they're back oval racing this week after a rare trip onto the road course, turning left and right. Very rare practice for those guys on a Saturday night, but they did it last week at the Glen and did it well. Back this week on the ovals, 7:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Again, check your local guides, because once we get to next week, that'll change to 7:20 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Monday nights, Real Sim Racing Australia Super2 East Series for you. And next stop, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Looking forward to that sprint racing for both of the championships next week. So that's from 8:05 on Monday night, and that's Australian Eastern Standard Time. Same time Tuesday night for the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries from the same venue. And looking forward to seeing if we'll add a new name to the list of winners, make it 3 from 3, or whether Corey Shepherd or Dylan Rudd can notch up their second win of the season. For Rudd, it'd be 2 on the trot. For Shepherd, it'd be 2 and 3. But they're the two that have managed to take the checkered flag first throughout the course of the season thus far. I'm sure there'll be new winners along the way and more names on that list, but it's just a matter of when, not if. Whether it's next week or not remains to be seen. Looking forward to that immensely. So a final reminder. Saturday night, the clocks go back in the progressive civilized parts of the country, meaning that we actually get to catch up. And the, well, to be fair, the Sunshine State tag is really losing its appeal here in Queensland. It's actually losing its truth, given recent rain events. So we've got some options for what you can call Queensland going forward, because it's not the Sunshine State. It's either the Sleepy State, given the nature of the fact that the shops don't open till 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning and they're all closed at 6 o'clock. The Slow and Steady wins the race state because they're an hour behind all bloody summer, 26 weeks of the year. Or the saturated state, because we can't get rid of the water at the moment. Take your pick, but it's not the Sunshine State. But we do catch up to New South Wales next week, even by default of them winding the clock back. But daylight saving ends on Sunday morning, so a later broadcast start next week in terms of Australian Eastern Standard Time, but it's still 8:05, I should say, for Sydney, Melbourne, Tasmania, and it now becomes 7:35 Central and 6:05 Western. So we're looking forward to your company for all that and more on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Brilliant race tonight. Geez, they made us work for it. That bat of a second was on in earnest, and it was holding our attention and captivating our imagination from first until the last. Barber Motorsport Park delivers yet another classic. Dylan Rudd shows why he was such a dominant force in the championship last year with an emphatic 5-second win in the end there over Corey Shepherd and Rainer Costello. Hope you enjoyed the coverage on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Matt Davis back with us next week. Thanks to Dan Leake for filling in, and looking forward to you joining us again on Saturday night for the stock cars. Monday night for Super 2, and we're back next Tuesday night. Of course, Monday night being Matt Davis and Dean Reddit territory. They rock and roll there. And we'll be back Tuesday night to rip and tear through round 3 of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries. Until then, from the virtual Barber Motorsport Park, on behalf of the entire SimShed Broadcasting team, I'm Zach Cabin, bidding you a very good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for your company, and congratulations once more to 95 Sim Sport and Dylan Rudd, victorious in the Barber 160. See you next week. Bye for now.